We are live. Welcome. Already our first malfunction of the night. Mike Yuva joining us, but we're good. It's NFL draft time. I'm Blake Ruffino. I am one of your co-hosts tonight. Mike Yuva is joining us as well. Our other co-host, powered by BetOnline and powered by our good friends over at Bleav Podcast and the Bleav Podcast Network. Mike, what's going on tonight, my friend?
Not much, Blake. Just keeping busy. Just keeping busy out here in South Carolina, but I'm very grateful to be hopping on with you tonight as day 1 of 3 for the NFL draft kicks off tonight.
Absolutely. And Mike, we have a very jam-packed show. I mean, we already have we got guests lined up. I mean, bam, bada bop. Huge coverage tonight. We're going to talk a lot of SEC. We're going to talk a lot of NFL and NFL draft. And we already got our first guest. So look, everybody do us a favor and hit the like and share. Share it to your Facebook groups. Share it to your YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to Bleav and Are You Serious Sports Network YouTube channels as we got a lot of coverage as well. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's get over to Mike Farrell, but I want to talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag first. BetOnline is your number one source for all of your betting odds and news. Get over to BetOnline today by using the promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV. BLEAV, and you'll get 50% off of your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. All right, let's get to our first guest. We have Mike Farrell joining us. Mike, the recruiting guru, the recruiting GOAT, if you will, Mike Farrell joining us. What's up, Mike?
Oh, geez, nothing. I remember covering all these kids like 4 or 5 years ago, some of them 3 years ago. It's going to be fun to watch them all get drafted.
And Yuva, I don't know if you feel this way too, but it does it feel like to you guys that it seems like every year it's just all SEC dominated? And I know that's we keep punching it out there. It's always a cliche now, but BetOnline has it as 10.5 as the over-under of guys that gets drafted tonight. I mean, it's going to be another SEC dominated show. Don't y'all believe?
Yeah, it's going to be close, though. I mean, you got Ohio State with a couple guys in there. You got Michigan with a top 5 pick. ACC's represented with Pickett and NC State and Ekwonu. Even got Group of 5 in there with Sauce. So, the SEC always has the most amount of first-rounders. That's just every year. I don't know if it'll be as dominant this year as it has been in the past, though. This is a down draft, and one of the reasons for that is only a couple teams are really producing, multiple first rounders for the SEC this year, which is rare.
What's interesting, I agree with you. And it seems like the draft is they're saying it's quote unquote down. But if you look at it, there's a lot of big offensive and defensive linemen. Yuva, what do you believe? I mean, look, I know that we're about to get to this first pick here. And Aidan Hutchinson might be the first guy off of the board, but what do you think? I mean, is he the guy? Look, for me, guys, and I don't know, and I'll kick it to both of you. If you got Trevor Lawrence at quarterback and you're the Jags, I mean, wouldn't you go to someone that could protect him? I mean, but Yuva, what do you think?
I mean, shoot, I think that it all starts up front, right? And it's a cliche line to use. During my time working at the Fox station in Columbia, I had a chance to be able to cover Trevor throughout college and cover some of those national championships for the Tigers. And I could tell you firsthand, I mean, he's the type of guy that just when he has that protection, and I guess you could say this about any quarterback, but just especially with Trevor and just the way that he is made up and his skill set, if you give him time in the pocket, he's going to be able to deliver. Now, the reality is this. Guy was a rookie. There was a lot of issues going on last year with Jacksonville. I mean, well documented. But I think that in the league today, when you talk about how the quarterback is the most important position on the field, we get so caught up about, okay, go out and get a wide receiver. No. Stick to what works. Get an offensive lineman. Build around this young man. There's a reason why you were so high on him last year. You need to be able to build pieces around him. Though. You can't just say, okay, hey, we'll get a quarterback and we'll get him some sexy toys on the outside. It doesn't always work that way.
What about you, Farrell? I mean, I agree with Uva there. I mean, at least for me, I mean, the number one position is quarterback, and you got to protect him. Would you be surprised if it's Evan Neal, Charles Cross, or what do you think there?
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, it should be. I had Evan Neal as my number one guy. Still do. You know, he got medicaled. You know, so some people are saying he's sliding in the draft, and you know, other people like Ekwonu from NC State a little bit better, which I like him. I don't see him as a franchise left tackle as much as Neal. Neal to me looks like a guy who's going to be wearing a gold jacket someday. Just a special athlete. They signed Cam Robinson, flip him to the right side, take Evan Neal, but they're going to go defense. And you know, I guess you can't blame them because they have so many weaknesses on their roster. And it is a pass rush and offensive line group this year. I mean, those are the two positions other than wide receiver that are deep. So maybe you get a lineman, you know, in the second round that's still of quality.
Now, obviously, both Mikes, Mike squared, if you couldn't tell. I have the Tigers hat on, so it's not really a partial who I either cover or root for. What do y'all think about Stingley? I mean, it looks like, you know, a lot of people with comments, and right before we came on, Lovie Smith, the new head coach, said that they would love to take him at 3. Look, I've covered Derek. I've talked to Derek. He's been injured the last 2 years. I don't know if he goes that high, but that's just me. But there's a lot of news coming out about Derek Stingley coming out and possibly going at 3. What do you guys Bleav?
You know, I heard the 3. I thought it was a little bit of smoke, you know, because
right.
If you got 3, you know, right now, I think Stingley is arguably, you know, the most talented player in the draft class. I mean, 2019, he was the only cornerback I've ever rated as the number 1 player in the country ever. And you know, 2019 season, he was outstanding. He was the best player on that defense in the national championship as a true freshman. You know, we got to go against those guys, you know, Chase and Jefferson, and it just made him better. But the last 2 years, he's been dinged up. Sauce Gardner is a little bit longer, taller, probably a safer bet. So if you're going to go corner at 3, you would think Sauce. I still think they're going to go Ekwonu at 3. Stingley is going to be interesting because I think they put Stingley out there as a name to see if anybody's willing to trade up to 3 out of fear of losing him. And you might see some of those teams maybe get a little nervous and edge up there at number 3.
Yuva, what do you think?
No, I mean, Mike brings up a good point. I mean, it all comes down to some teams feel nervous that they might lose him. And one team that's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do is the Jets. The fact that they have 2 top 10 picks here. You know, they're a team that could desperately use a corner, but then again, they could desperately use many positions. The fact that they have 2 of those top 10 picks, do they decide to get him early on, or they feel like he might fall down and, you know, and be able to get him with that second top 10 pick, or does another team try to sneak up on him? So I think that is the fear for the Jets, but I mean, that could be the case for any team. And I wouldn't be shocked to see some movement in that top 10 for a team to move on up to try to snag him.
You know, it's interesting to me is that Derek, like Mike, like you said, one of the most talented guys probably in the draft, if not the most talented guy, but the injury set him back, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes here. And I think if you're drafting him off the talent, right, like you can pick him wherever, but the injuries are cause for concern.
Yeah, and let's be honest. I mean, he didn't play through stuff as he should have. You know, 2019 cemented his draft status. He was going to be a top 10 pick. And here we are. Let's say he sat out the last 2 years. You'd still be talking about Stingley as a top 10 pick. He's just that rare a talent. You know, so he kind of saved himself a little bit. You know, didn't fight through those injuries as much as he probably could have. Looked not so great against certain teams. You know, UCLA, one of them, where he was injured. And did play, and he didn't like that. He didn't like the fact that he was out there and limited. So in this day of sort of shut it down, I Bleav the 2019 Derek Stingley is the one that everybody's going to get. The problem with it is, you know, there's just not a lot of film. Whoever gets him is going to get a shutdown physical corner who can do everything and has the instincts that you want. But he's allowed Sauce Gardner to be in the conversation as number 1 by just, you know, not playing through and being injured the last couple of years.
Yeah, you know, I can tend to agree with that. You know, like, look, but you know, wheels falling off with Orgeron. I guess I'll leave that one there. Is there anybody in the draft, guys? And look, it's getting started. We're already on the clock here with the Jags. Is there anybody that y'all just love though? Is there like that one guy? And I'm sure you both guys watch and maybe have your favorite NFL teams or whatever. But is there a guy that you just absolutely love in this draft? Uva, I will go to you first.
Shoot, maybe it's because I'm just so used. I don't know. I think we got spoiled last year, right? I think a lot of it starts with the quarterbacks, and I'm a guy that played defense in college, so I know it's ironic for me to be giving praise to the offense here. But to have 5 quarterbacks drafted in the top 15 last year, I think this draft as a whole just doesn't seem as sexy, right? And I think, Mike brought that up, and I'm not trying to, put words in his mouth in that phrase. But the point being is it's just not what it looked like last year. And then you look at what it could be next year, especially with the quarterback. So I say that because I feel like to some people, they're going to look at it and be like, all right, top to bottom, is it as talented as it was last year? Maybe not, but at the same time, too, there are some guys that stand out. You mentioned Ekwonu from NC State. I mean, he's a guy that I feel like from an offensive tackle standpoint, and Jacksonville probably won't take him in that spot, but I mean, he's a guy that could really make a difference for a lot of these teams. And we talked about before, just the quarterback-driven league. Not saying anything at this point that no one else knows. I think the offensive tackle position is a position that you need to invest in early on. There's a lot of good offensive linemen in this draft. I wouldn't be shocked to see him make a big difference, not just being drafted early, but making a big difference for a team early on in his career.
Farrell, what says you, my friend?
Yeah, value-wise, there's a few guys I like. I don't love anybody. Like, I do think Evan Neal, if healthy, is a special left tackle. The defensive ends, I don't see anybody, who's I don't see a Boza. I don't see a Chase Young here. Athletic guys for sure, but with limitations. Travon Walker is a great athlete, and he's good against the run and strings plays out, but he's not an elite pass rusher. Aidan Hutchinson, not an elite athlete. A motor guy and strong and physical at the point of attack and on and on. So value-wise, I like Jermaine Johnson because you're going to be able to get him after those first 3. Kayvon Thibodeau is another guy who's very, very talented. I'm just not sold on how much he loves football. I think Jermaine Johnson's the guy with the 4th defensive end pick that you can get maybe Ravens or somebody, can get a steal there. And then wide receiver, I like Olave. Olave's my number 1. He won't go number 1. He'll probably go 4. Drake London or Garrett Wilson or Jameson Williams will probably go 1. Whether that's, the Falcons at number 8 or the Jets at number 10, that's when you're going to start to see the wide receivers go off. But Chris Olave, I think, is going to be available there for somebody, maybe the Eagles, maybe the Packers, somebody like that. And he's going to go into, an offense, instantly be the best route runner and that slot guy that you can't cover.
Farrell, well, let me say that Jordan Davis is mine, right? Like, look, as a former Rivals 2-star athlete in 2008, I got to say so myself. As it was, they gave you the 2-star, Mike, right? Like, I already remember they said it was a default star rating. So as a former 2-star recruit on Rivals, I got to say Jordan Davis is mine, right? Like, because I know that there were times in the SC championship game he took plays off, but he kind of got that back in the national title game. I love a big guy that scores, man. I like a big guy that can move that fast. And look, as a fatter dude that played center in the FCS level, okay, I like seeing a big nose guard do damage and control the game. I think he's mine. I think that he could be the steal of the draft. Farrell, what's interesting, we have some comments flowing in here, and we'll get some in here in just a minute. Of the guys that are projected to go in the first round, I think I caught this earlier, but who was your highest rated guy? Was it Evan Neal that you had recruited that was the highest rated guy? Out of him, who was maybe some of the top 3 that you can remember that you had the highest rating coming out of high school?
I mean, Stingley was number 1, so he'd be the first one. Evan Neal was a 5-star, so he was very, very highly regarded. Charles Cross was a 5-star as well. There aren't a ton of 5-stars in here, but those would be the 3 that I look at. Travon Walker was a 4, Hutchinson was a 4, Ekwonu was a 3, Sauce was a 3. So it's Neal, Cross, and these are all, very, very good football players. and then Stingley's the highest rated guy out there. I'm looking to see if there's another 5-star that I project in my first round, and I don't have one. There's a lot of 4s and there's some 3s in here, and not a lot of 2s, which is always good. You know, you don't want the 2s jumping in there and making it look bad.
Right.
you just don't. I mean, but I will say this, you know, the last few drafts that you know, I've compared based on high school rankings and things like that. We've had, I mean, some drafts have had 8 or 9 5-stars. So it's a little bit low in the 5-star category this year. Kenyon Green's a 5-star too. He could be at the end of the first round, but just not as many as normal.
All right. So guys, we do have our first pick. It is an SEC guy. Pooh Bear, you want to come in here and tell us who the first pick is? Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I gotta hit the music, Pooh.
With the first pick, Jacksonville Jaguars have selected Travon Walker.
All right, interesting. So I should have probably, because we're on Bleav too, cross promoting here. That is one of our producers, Go Pooh Bear. Guys, y'all surprised that it's Travon Walker out of Georgia, the number 1 pick for the Jaguars? I got to be honest. I'm a little surprised. He had 6 sacks a season ago, but he's a very athletic guy. What do you, Uva? We'll go to you first, and then we'll go to Farrell.
Well, shoot, if you asked me this a month ago, I think his odds of being the top guy, I think it was what, you know, like 30-1. I mean, it was something crazy. So the fact that he was able to make as much noise to the point where Jacksonville felt good enough to be able to pick him over first overall, I am a little surprised by it. But I mean, he is a guy that when you talk about just the talent and, you know, the guys that he's gone up against playing in the SEC, I mean, he certainly is capable of being a game changer. And, you know, it's one of those things, right? I mean, you look at Walker, you look at Hutchinson, same position. Who do you feel like is going to be the guy that's going to have a better career? And ultimately, they felt like Walker's their guy right now for him. You know, obviously, this is what I like about this year's draft, right? It might not be the quarterbacks like last year, 3 quarterbacks. We're all taking 1, 2, 3 to start it. We got 2 defensive ends. So in a couple of years from now, we're going to be able to go back and be able to tell whether or not, you know, Jacksonville made the right pick or not, even though, you know, Jacksonville's not an ideal spot for a lot of people. I mean, let's just call a spade here.
Right. Look, I agree with Farrell. Look, Evan Neal is my number 1 guy on the board. I just got to be honest. I think you still got to protect Trevor, but if they have a lot of faith in him, then you got to go after him. Mike, are you surprised, though, that they go Travon Walker here?
No, I mean, that's what it was trending the last few days.
Right.
So it wasn't a surprise. There wasn't a lot of mystery that he was going to be the guy. But for a while there was. I mean, heading into the combine, I didn't have him amongst my top 5 edge rushers. And then after the combine, I had him as my number 1 edge rusher. And I guess you know, people will say, okay, you know, that's underwear football. It's not real contact. But when you get a kid that big who can do that many things, and you watch his film again, so you go back after the combine, you're like, what did I miss? Why did he only have 6 sacks? You see the scheme they play. He can drop. This kid could play linebacker if he wanted to. And to team him with Josh Allen, who's another amazing, you know, talented defensive end, they're going to be trouble for a lot of people off the edge. And also they're going to have a versatile defense because both of those guys are athletic and can work in space. Now, I will say this. There's no way he can live up to this number 1 pick. And it's unfortunate. Well, it's not unfortunate. He's going to make millions of dollars, so I don't feel sorry for him. But, you know, you just can't because everybody's going to want 16 sacks a year. And every defensive end that goes number 1, you know, Myles Garrett may be the exception, but still, you know, Clowney, Garrett, it's just he's not a 16 sack guy. He's going to be a very key part of their defense, but he's going to be looked at as a guy. Why did they pick him? But it's a horrible quarterback draft. They should have taken Neal probably, but you know what else are you going to do? You take the biggest, most athletic guy and let him go to town and hope he develops a little bit better as a pass rusher.
Well, we do have the second pick in. Come on in, Zach, and give us this second pick.
With the second pick, we're really close. With the second pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Aidan Hutchinson, the defensive end out of Michigan.
Well, so I mean, guys, look, if it was going to be Walker, it was obviously going to be Aidan Hutchinson too. Guys, I got to tell you this now. At least for me, now this is just me. I'm not saying that the Georgia game turned me off for Aidan Hutchinson in the playoffs, but it kind of did a little bit. If I'm just being truthfully honest, there were times that he was just nowhere to be found. I don't know about you guys. I'm not saying he's not a good prospect. I'm not saying he can't do good things. But I was a little alarmed, though, a little bit that once he played against the then at the time would be former national champions or would be national champions, he kind of disappeared. Did that bother you guys any like it did me?
They said the same thing about Chase Young, if you remember.
Right.
In the playoff, he didn't light it up, or even against Indiana, he didn't light it up, or Northwestern. There are guys that just they won't dominate every play, every down. I'm not saying he's Chase Young; he's not as good as that. He's a very serviceable defensive end. We saw Sawyer take care of him, and we saw the scheme work against him. But we also saw him go up against a second-round offensive tackle at Ohio State and just destroy him. And that's Nick Petit-Frere, who's probably a second rounder, could be a third rounder. So I don't know. I think he's a good pick for them just because he's a Dan Campbell type of guy, man. He just never stops. He's going to work his butt off. He's a local kid. He's going to be a leader on that defense. It just makes a lot of sense as far as the pick. And I would take, Walker's athleticism and Hutchinson's work ethic over Thibodeau. And there was some talk that they didn't like Thibodeau, then they did like Thibodeau. I think it's a good pick for them. They don't need a tackle. And if they reached on a quarterback here at 2, it would be a disaster. So this is a good pick.
I'm going to mix it up on you a little bit here. Yep. The Texans are coming up now at 3. If you monitor Twitter now, I don't know what Twitter means. I'm just a Twitter newbie. A lot of buzz here about Stingley or Sauce Gardner. If it were you, who are you taking here if you're the Texans? I still take Evan Neal. He's the number 1 guy on my board. I'll probably be saying that for the next 20 minutes. But what says you?
They have so many holes right now. It's amazing. Right. It's amazing. Like if you were just like in the witness protection program for the last 5 years, and we told you, hey, this is where the Texans are right now in comparison to where they were 5 years ago, you'd be like, what the hell's going on? Obviously, with this year's draft, right? We talked about it before. Don't really have the quarterbacks this year. Probably hoping next season. To go pick a quarterback. So I think right now you have to build that offensive line. Build it for whatever guy is going to be there. And if it's going to be a young quarterback that you feel like, you're going to have to throw into the mix a little bit sooner rather than later. And I'm not saying you have to start him early on in the year, but you might start him towards the end of his rookie year. At least you have an experienced guy up front, a guy that you feel like you can build that offensive line around. So I agree with you.
Farrell, Davis Mills is a quarterback at the Texans. A lot of people that are at least have evaluated quarterbacks more than I will ever do in my life, they're pretty high on Mills. Where were you on him coming out, or where are you now on Davis Mills?
He was a 5-star kid out of high school. Really great-looking kid out of Georgia, went to Stanford, had some injuries, didn't really break through there as expected. A lot of people expected, perhaps another Andrew Luck type of career. He was just minimal passing attempts, very hard to evaluate on film. But again, when you get him in a pro day situation or you get him in a combine situation, looks great. $1 million. He had a better year than Trevor, better year than Justin Fields. He's going to regress a little bit though. Those guys are going to rise up, I believe. He's not the quarterback of the future for them, but there isn't one in this draft. So to me, again, I would take Neal. I don't think they like Neal. I think they've medicaled him. I think they like Ekwonu. And I do believe that that's going to be the pick here. Now, Texans fans would like they'd like the Texans to take Stingley or somebody like that. Now, there's a chance, very outside chance at 13 that a very good corner is going to be available. But I think these elite offensive tackles, Neal and Cross and Ekwonu are going to be gone by 13. So I would take Ekwonu, and then at 13, hope McDuffie's there or even a Stingley slides to you.
I agree. Look, I feel like we repeat ourselves so many times, right, with that. but you got to
wow.
win the game up front, right? And you've said it earlier. Like if you're not winning the game up front, and you got to build around. Here we go. So we do have some breaking news. We got the new pick in here. Pooh Bear, come on in here and give us the pick.
With the number 3 pick, the Houston Texans have selected the Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU.
We know that you're happy.
TVU.
We know
Let's
that
go.
Pooh's happy. I am too. Look, guys, just here locally, at least in covering LSU, look, over the last, I'd say 24 to 48 hours, it had been really pretty much talked about that Stingley's climbing up. Now, I don't know if that's the Lovie Smith connection. I don't really know. But look, Mike, like you said earlier, Stingley's a top 3 type of talent, right? He was the number 1 guy on your board, but the injuries kept him out a little bit. What do you think the Texans get here with a guy like Stingley?
Well, I mean, you get a guy who has a chance to be Patrick Peterson, who has a chance to be Jalen Ramsey, who has a chance to be one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. We didn't get to see the true Stingley over the last couple of years. We saw it in 2019. We saw it in the practice videos that they keep showing against Jamar Chase. You ask Chase, you ask Jefferson, he's the guy. So it's a good pick. Man, I'm just one of those old school guys is like, where have you been the last 2 years? But I guess in this, Micah Parsons missed 2020 because of COVID, and he's fine. Rashawn Slater, Penei Sewell missed 20. So you can miss a season or mail it in or be hurt or whatever, and it doesn't really matter. So I think if we see 2019 Stingley, this is a great pick. And honestly, 2019 Stingley could have gone number 1 overall.
I agree with you. Farrell, look, you've been fantastic, and I could sit here and pick your brain for hours and hours and hours. I appreciate you joining us. I appreciate your time, and I'm hoping to have you on again soon, sir.
All right. Just let me know and follow me at MFarrell Sports on Twitter, and I'll be following the draft all night.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate
That's
it,
Mike Farrell, our good friend. I'll kick it over to you. Cole Tracy, if you can hear me, brother, we can't see you on camera. So LSU kicker. Hey, LSU. I'm just joking. I couldn't control myself. But what says you, Stingley, coming off the board? Man, that's huge.
That's big. No, it's big, and I think being able to see what he was capable of doing a couple of years ago. I know some people are going to be like, all right, where was he last year? I get that. I understand that. But more than anything, I think it proves that this guy is capable of being able to play at a high level. And that, you look at the situation. I mean, I don't need to tell you this, and the majority of your listeners who are LSU fans, there's been a lot going on over at LSU the last couple seasons, right? I know the man that we're trying to get on here next, Cole Tracy, he's been following along closely since his days of kicking for the Tigers. There's been a lot of change going on over there. So, I mean, look, I'm not trying to make excuses, but there's a lot of factors that can go into why Stingley maybe wasn't playing the caliber of football that some expected him to play last season in comparison to where he was a couple of years ago.
I agree with you. I mean, look, 2019 Stingley is national championship worthy, right? Like, I mean, you can't debate that, right? I mean, he is one of the top 3 players in this draft. And look, Mike, now that Farrell's off, I can call you Mike. And look, we got to get to your story too. I'm getting texts. Hey, who is this Uva guy? He's intelligent. So we got to get to your story soon. But
the bar set low if you're saying that. And the guy we're having come up next, he can tell you that I'm not the brightest.
Oh, I hear you. Well, look, we can go to Cole Tracy, but hold that thought. So let's do that. Let's hold the thought. Let's pay some bills very quickly, and then we'll get to Cole Tracy. I got to say, Cole Tracy, you're my hero. Okay, before you come on, shout out Auburn. Okay, but we'll get to that. Let's pay some bills. Cole Tracy right around the corner. Our partners over at BetOnline continue to be the number 1 source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's easy to get started, so head on over to their website. Use betonline.ag. Use that promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV. That's BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. All right, we got our good friend Cole Tracy here. I'm going to let Mike, you want to introduce your good buddy, Cole Tracy, here for us?
Oh, yeah. He's wearing the LSU. He forgets where he came from. Cole Tracy.
I got the assumption blue.
You got the assumption on. There we go. So for those of you that don't know, I played Division II football at a small school called Assumption. Thanks to Cole, if you're an LSU fan. I know there's a lot of them on here tonight because of Blake. The Tigers took him from us, and it's all right. Sometimes you gotta. It's like seeing the bird leave the nest. Sometimes they got to grow up and they got to go on and do bigger and better things. And of course, Cole took advantage of that. And as we see it here today, he's the all-time leader when field goals made in NCAA history on all levels. So it's good to have him here, and I think it's going to give a unique perspective because when you talk about special teams, because there's a lot of talented guys, whether it be punters, whether it be kickers, whether it be long snappers. I think that position in particular, all three of those positions, when you talk about specialists, it's one of the toughest to be able to not only stick on a team, but just to be able to get a camp invite to have that opportunity. And of course, Cole had to try to find a way to be able to do that a couple of years ago, and he knows firsthand how difficult it is.
Cole, I got to ask you a very serious question. And since it's a couple years out, look, you can curse on this platform, so it's okay. When the ball goes through the uprights at Auburn, it looks like you mouth "Let's effing go."
Oh,
what did you say when that ball went through the uprights at Auburn?
That sounds about right.
Hey, you know what it reminded me of, Cole, is when you went through and Kerry Vincent, shout out Kerry Vincent, was chasing you down, running after you. Have you ever seen the movie The Replacements when the linebacker is like running after the kicker? That's what it reminded me of. By the way, congratulations on your really good wheels.
I mean, Kerry Vincent, I think he ran a 4.40, so there definitely was not beating him, one of the fastest guys on the team. But no, I remember just taking off, and first thing I saw was Kerry just eyeing me and coming right at me, and I thought, we're only in week, what was it, 3 or something, so I got to get down as fast as I can because he's gonna give me a deck here.
All right, well, we do have some news here. Zach, you want to come in here and give us the pick?
Well, with the fourth pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select
Jets.
Gardner.
The Jets.
The New York Jets. I'm sorry. The New York Giants are Nets. New York Jets.
You got one job,
Gardner.
producer. You got one job, but nevertheless, Sauce Gardner. We'll get to Sauce here in a minute. Cole Tracy is our guest. Cole, I got to be honest, man. Because my family's very big Auburn fans, right? Mm-hmm. Covering the Tigers since 2017, I was elated. And look, that team had a lot of good players. You had Joe. So many good players on the team. Cole, an interesting stat by Michael Bonnet tonight. With Derek Stingley being drafted, of the players that you play with at LSU, 21 of the 22 starters, including yourself, have been drafted. When you look at that, what does that make you feel like? Like, I mean, that's insane, bro.
I know. You think about that team, and in 2018, well, I mean, even if you step before 2017, obviously there was the foundation, but then Coach O came and brought in a couple extra pieces. That 2018 was kind of just a bridging gap, but at the time bridging year, at the time we didn't really think that. We were just trying to win as many games as possible. But yeah, essentially that entire team went on, besides Devin White, and who else was my year? Greedy, a couple other players, but for the most part, that nucleus that ended up winning the national championship. So, no, it's really fun to be able to turn on any game Sunday and be able to be like, yeah, I played with him, or I know him, or I've met him in the locker room, stuff like that. So, really fun.
I did hear you had some eligibility left. Cole Tracy is coming back to LSU.
I wish I could get one of those COVID years, but this is
goddamn COVID. I'm going to kick it over to you, brother.
No, this is great because when I told Cole about this, I don't think he realized that this is pretty much like an LSU platform. So just seeing all the comments, I mean, it's awesome. It's so great to be able to see that. I think the neat thing too with Cole, I mean, I remember when he was making the move over to the SEC. My co-host of my podcast, Bleav in South Carolina, Marcus Lattimore, actually made a video for Cole and sent it over to him right before he began his career over at LSU, and basically just told him like, hey, this is just college football. You've been doing this your whole life. And I'll never forget talking to Marcus the night after his debut in Jerry's World and just putting up the performance that he had. I mean, Cole, that jump, and the reason why I say that is, I mean, obviously it's not the NFL, but making the jump from Division II to the SEC, I mean, speak of another Assumption guy, Carlin Patel, who made the jump from Assumption to South Carolina this past season. We're seeing the transfer portal. We're seeing guys jump up, and we're seeing some of these guys. Of course, you'll probably see it later in the rounds. Some of these FCS, even sometimes Division II, like the Patriots did a couple of years ago. Some of these smaller school guys, right? What would you say is the biggest challenge when you do make that jump to the SEC? Because for some of these guys that are going from FCS or Division II and they're going to the NFL, obviously it's going to be times two. But what would you say is the biggest jump?
I think the biggest challenge is just not letting yourself get caught up in that you're playing at a higher level. And I think I was fortunate enough to realistically only have 1 year, right? I didn't have time to process that I'm playing in front of millions of people on TV. You know, I'm playing in front of 100,000 people. My time was like this. I got in there June 1st and I was out day after the Fiesta Bowl in January 2nd, you know? So a lot of these guys just kind of keeping that in their mind that it doesn't really matter. It still is football. Obviously it's at a faster speed, but as long as you can keep your mental state just normal as you did your entire career up until that point, you know, that's where you're going to have success. And then once you've walked away from football and you're washed up like me working 9 to 5, or some of these guys that are getting drafted tonight probably won't ever work 9 to 5, but you get what I'm saying. Then that's the time that you can kind of reminisce and be like, wow, I was probably playing way above what I was projected to do, you know?
I have two questions for you here, Cole Tracy. Yes, I use your full name, and you know that
that's Louisiana. That's so proper. Look at you, Bleav.
Well, it's a Louisiana thing, bro. And Cole can tell you, we use everybody's full name. Number one, what does Cole Tracy do from 9 to 5 every day? And number two, well, we'll go with that one first. I got another one for you. But what is Cole Tracy doing these days?
So I love the Cole Tracy. The amount of times that I've gotten, you have two first names. I'm just going to say both of them. You know, so actually a lot of
right.
A lot of people say the full name. Zach von Rosenberg is one of them. But no, I am in medical sales. I've been doing it for about 2 years.
You are.
So it's interesting. I'm in the operating room every day and basically assisting surgeons on. I specialize in shoulders, knees, and hips. So a lot of ACLs, a lot of labral repairs, stuff like that. So I get to stay kind of in the athletic world in a certain way.
Well, look, Cole, if you want to stay on with us, do you have some time?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, we got to go to New York. Now, the New York Football Giants are selecting. Okay. Yeah. So I planned this perfectly. The next guy that we're bringing up is literally the man from New Orleans. Like, he runs the freaking boot. Okay. You know who I'm talking about. It's freaking Barstool Minty. Minty, what up, dude?
What's up, man? Just sitting in the Barstool office. We got our NFL draft show going. I'm watching the Pelicans, man. What an ending for the first half. Pels up 10. Larry Nance had 10.7 rebounds, had a huge tip-in at half. I'm all fired up about them, but what a sports night. I mean, Saints 2 first-round picks and Pels game 6. This is the biggest New Orleans sports day I can remember since that tragedy in the NFC Championship, I think.
I know. Well, just very quickly, guys, we do have some news here. The New York Football Giants have selected defensive end from Oregon, Kayvon Thibodeau. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's a pretty good pick for them. Let's see what they do here in a minute. But Minty, look to your left. I mean, we got the best kicker in LSU football history.
Oh yeah, dude. He followed me on Twitter earlier. I was pumped, man. I'm still that Auburn kick is still such an iconic moment. That's just ridiculous.
Now, Minty, the video that went viral with you cheering on your hotty-toddy, gosh almighty, who the hell are we, with Lane Kiffin. Did you do that for Cole Tracy when he booted that bitch at Auburn?
I was happy for Cole Tracy, but that's not my alma mater. But I definitely was happy for LSU. Whenever LSU wins and it doesn't affect Ole Miss, I'm never really upset, So, but no, I remember that kick very well. I was in a packed restaurant in Shreveport, and the whole place went freaking nuts back when I was grinding the old North Louisiana radio days.
Yeah.
By the way, I had Derek Stingley under 7.5 in the draft, pretty big, as one of my big picks. So already hit that, was pumped. The NFL LSU tradition lives on.
Look, we were talking about this just a minute ago, Minty, and Mike, I'll kick this over to you. I mean, look, he's a top 3 talent, Mintz. I mean, the injuries kept him out, but he's a top 3 talent, no doubt.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. Still a little surprised to see him over Sauce Gardner maybe, but, the attributes are so good, and he kind of had, lost 2 years. He didn't fit in that nobody fit in that Bo Pelini scheme. That whole thing was a train wreck. And then last year he lost it to the Liz Frank injury. But, I mean, look, he's a talented dude. I'm sure his family, I know his dad. I know they got to be happy that he's just got to go a couple hours down I-10 west to Houston. That's got to be a great fit for his family.
Yeah.
No, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. I think, like we said before, the fact that he's put it together on tape before, I'm not concerned about him. Everyone can say, okay, look what happened last season. It happens. It happens. Sometimes there's going to be guys that don't even have statistics. Go look at a guy like J.C. Horn. A little bit different situation. And I know I say that because I cover the Gamecocks. J.C. really statistically, if you didn't pay attention to the film, you would think the guy he just sucked. But that wasn't the case. The fact was they didn't want to throw on him because he was so damn good. So it's a little bit different. But the point being is there's going to be people that will dissect you after you put up the numbers that he did his freshman year. And they're going to say, okay, well, he's got to do it again. He's got to do it again. So I think he's going to be all right. I do want to mention this before Cole leaves. We're going to bring this full circle here, because I am very grateful for not only LSU fans. I'm very grateful for the whole state of Louisiana because all you fine people donated money to our alma mater. Cole Tracy went to Assumption. I went to Assumption as well.
Yeah.
He donated money to Assumption. That scoreboard's up here. Now, this is where it brings it back full circle because I don't know if some of you guys realize this. The name of that stadium now at Assumption, you know what the name of the stadium is? I know
Brian Kelly something, right?
Yeah.
Brian Kelly Stadium, another proud Assumption alum. So look where we are.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. So, Minty, you know how weird this is? So the Saints have, I forget the wide receiver. Cole, help me out. The guy that plays
Deontay Harris. He's from there too, right?
Yeah.
You have the lovely, I mean, look at the beautiful landscaping behind Cole Tracy, and then you have Brian Kelly. It's like Assumption has literally funded LSU, bro.
That is really wild. Where in Pennsylvania is Assumption?
It's Massachusetts.
That's Massachusetts.
It's in Worcester.
Keep your mouth shut here. My bad.
2,000 people attend the school. Small little Catholic school.
2,200. Cole, come on. Don't undersell us here.
One entrance, and that same entrance is the exit. One way in, one way out. This small little school, and obviously not Brian Kelly, but I think a lot of this goes back to, as Yuva would agree here, Bob Chesney over at Holy Cross. I mean, he just turns programs around, and he's doing the same thing at Holy Cross. They should have some guys playing in the NFL this year. We
definitely got to get to that Brian Kelly Assumption thing, maybe later down the road.
I'm excited. I got all my connections still. Now I can call up Brian Kelly and say, let's get some tickets.
Hey, can you ask him to give me a sideline pass then? I mean, like, bro, those press box seats are small as shit. I'm a fat dude, bro. I mean, like, if you got that kind of pull, like, help a brother out. Minty, we don't want to keep you too long. I know it's
I got a quick Stingley question for the LSU guys. So Lovey's, I don't know what century Houston's in hiring Lovie Smith and Pep Hamilton to be their coaches. What is this, 15, 20 years ago? I mean, Tampa 2's been dead. Is Stingley, how are they going to utilize him right? I mean, I really didn't like that coaching hire by Houston. I'm curious how that's going to fit.
I don't like the Lovie Smith hire nor the white beard that they hired too. You know, like I don't like anything that Lovie Smith's got. But Mitch, you're right. I mean, he is a true cover, man-to-man cover corner.
Yeah.
Like you can't. I mean, we've seen Stingley not do good in zones. I mean, and so I don't know. I really, quite honestly, I was hoping that Derek get away a little bit. I was hoping he went to New York, man. It's honestly, and you could hang out with him.
Well, I mean, I'm happy for him. You know, he ends up at top 3 pick after everything that happened the last couple of years. So good for him. And the LSU defensive back tradition continues rolling strong.
I will say this about Stingley. When I was there, it was the Fiesta Bowl, right? And so the high school.
Right. He came to practice
December, so we had a month's worth of practice, and we didn't have any corners, like no corners to play. And Stingley arrived on campus early, and so he was able, per NCAA rules, be able to practice with us up until the bowl game, but he can't play, right?
Yep.
And I remember it was a serious conversation amongst the coaching staff is, do we burn Stingley's eligibility for this year to have him play in the Fiesta Bowl? Because there's a guaranteed shot that he's not staying there for 4 years. So what does it really matter? They ended up saving his red shirt, or not his red shirt, but his year of eligibility for that game. But I mean, he was flat out the best corner on the field throughout that bowl practice, and he was 17.
Yeah, he didn't even turn 18 yet. Mitch, we don't want to keep you long, buddy. We know we got the Pelicans. We know we got the Saints. What do you think the Saints do here very quickly?
I mean, I think they're going to get one of the receivers. I want Olave. I think he'd be great on the Superdome turf. I love his route running. I always thought he kind of reminded me of not quite Justin Jefferson, but like a light version of it, you know?
Right.
Or maybe like a cousin kind of thing. We all know about the Ohio State Saints tradition that we've seen through the years. So I would love to get him opposite Mike Thomas. The other pick's interesting. A lot of people are projecting Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. I don't know that I see that necessarily. So that other pick is going to be interesting. I heard some stuff from Saints Intel. They really love Evan Neal. And so if he fell a little bit, you might see him try to trade the 2 picks to get up and get him possibly. We know that the Saints, you know, Mickey Loomis certainly not afraid to go all in and trade picks and make aggressive moves when he's in love with people. But I heard the Saints really like Olave. They like Evan Neal. And I've also heard the Saints like Nakobe Dean, who's a guy, you know, is over under 32.5. He's 5'11", 230. So, you know, his stats look really good, but the measurables aren't as good. But I've heard, you know, through the grapevine they like him too. So we'll see.
And Mincy, can I ask you a quick question before you
Sure.
As someone that doesn't follow the Saints every day, you know, obviously there's been a lot going on this offseason. Sean Payton's not here. And then you think back just a couple of years ago with Drew Brees retiring. What do you feel like, number one, is going to be what the Saints need to do to be able to keep this thing headed in the right direction? And then number two, have you just noticed things that are a little bit different in terms of what the team's trying to do to be able to keep this thing going?
I think they're keeping the culture going. I mean, Dennis Allen, you know, defensive coordinator, you still got Cam Jordan and Demario Davis and those guys leading it. I mean, I really think they're just kind of running it back the same culture without Sean Payton and keeping that continuity going. You still got Jeff Ireland running the scouting, Mickey Loomis, GM, balancing the cap. And to me, you know, I mean, obviously things are going to be different without Sean P on the sideline. I don't want to say that. But to me, they're not really blowing it up or changing much. They think they got a winning culture, winning organization. Carolina and Atlanta also rebuilding right now. A lot of questions about both. And so they think they've got a chance to make the playoffs again. They almost made it last year despite starting, 5 quarterbacks in the year or whatever. So, you know, I think they're just trying to keep the ship together, and I think it's the right move. I mean, when you look at the Saints, the last few years, they went 9-8 last year, but the 4 years before that, they had just a crazy, crazy record. You've had winning seasons 5 years in a row. So I don't think you blow it up. You got a great defense. You got a lot of guys in their prime. I would be shocked if they trade the 2 picks or get a quarterback tonight. The Saints have drafted a first-round quarterback since 1971. So I think they just get the best guy. They get an offensive tackle, maybe a receiver, and they keep rolling.
Mitch, when the Pelicans win in 7, are you gonna like rock bottom Playboy Marty through?
Oh man, yeah. I just want to win tonight. First, when I saw Devin Booker out in the court tonight, I didn't necessarily love it, but that home court advantage. It's so funny to me. You know, the Pelicans draw 4,000 or 5,000 during the regular season, but it just becomes a Superdome in the playoffs. And I mean, they may have the best home court in the league. Props to the team and the staff. They finally done what I've been yelling for years about New Orleans needing to do. And that's just embracing NOLA culture of the game atmosphere. All NOLA rap, all NOLA live music, dance party. That's what the Saints and Pels should have been doing forever. You got the most unique food and music culture in the country in New Orleans. Why are you not embracing that for the game atmosphere? And I think they've finally done that, and people are loving it. I mean, I can't say enough how much fun I had in games 3 and 4.
Minty,
I'll be back Jazz Fest next weekend. I'm flying back. Can't wait. Second weekend.
I'll be there too. And I'm going to the Brooks. I'm going to Garth in Death Valley this weekend.
Oh, are you? Yeah, I can already smell the alcohol from here in Death Valley. There's a big walk-ons pre-party we're doing some stuff with, but I can't swing that. But I will be at second weekend of Jazz Fest.
Minty,
I travel so much, I got to remind everybody here I actually still work here.
They got a whole Assumption College Brian Kelly tailgating. Like, I'm trying to get in. They're like, you're too big. You drink too much alcohol. You can't do it. So we'll see. Minty, dude, you know I love you, man.
Cole, great to meet you, man.
Hey, you take care.
Thank you,
I'll take it
Minty.
easy, boys. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you for coming. That's Barstool Minty. Cole, look, you can come and go whatever you please. If you're a friend of Yuva, you're a friend of me. So if you want to come in, you want to go get something to eat, you can come in and come out whatever you want.
All right.
Pause. Maybe don't take that the wrong way, but you can do whatever you want. We do have another pick. I don't know which producer's times to pick. I'll go Pooh Bear because Zach messed up the last time. So Pooh Bear, who was just selected?
With the number.
Wait, gotta wait for the music, bro.
With the number 6 pick, the Carolina Panthers selected Ickey Ekwonu out of North Carolina State.
Thank you so much, Pooh Bear. Yuva, we'll kick it over to you. You talked about him earlier. Your thoughts on the offensive tackle from NC State? Not too far from you guys.
No, and I mean, another team that I had an opportunity to cover before I made the switch to Gamecock Central. I covered the Panthers for 5 seasons, so I know them pretty well. And the fact that, when Matt Rule came in, the very first 8 picks of his coaching career for the Panthers, 7 was used in 2020. And the first one, of course, was the former South Carolina defensive back J.C. Horn as the 8th overall pick last year. The first 8 picks were all defensive players. So we're seeing a little bit of a change right now, right? Even going back to last year, you had some tight ends in there, you had some offensive linemen, even had a long snapper. Go figure. No disrespect. I mean, we got to love the specials, right, Cole?
Hey, Cole Tracy's long snapper was drafted to the Miami Dolphins. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, and another assumption guy, you won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. He's the long snapper for Tampa Bay. Another assumption connection.
Cole, did y'all win y'all's national title?
They started winning as soon as I left.
I
remember I was a dying breed. I was a white corner. But the best part about being a white corner when you're on the field, they're going to throw it at you every time. I think I might be the last white corner to have an interception in Assumption history. And that was in garbage time, but we'll cut that part.
You're like the Jonathan Seymour. Speaking of the New York Giants, you remember Seymour wore 37 for the Giants? Maybe I'm showing my age a little bit, but nevertheless. Look, I don't know. Who do y'all got the Giants to go here? Look, again, I'm going to continue to say Evan Neal. Okay, I'm going to continue to say it until he's picked. So let's see what they do. Oh, and there he goes. So, Zach, come give us the official pick.
Well, there you go, Blake. The Giants did select Evan Neal, the tackle out of Alabama.
All right, guys, look, I got to be honest. I don't like pumping up Alabama players or fans or anything like that. But look, in all truthfulness, in my personal opinion, and we're watching the film right here, in my opinion, he's the best player in the draft. Okay, you could either move him or Stingley. When you're a premier left tackle and you got to play in the NFL, you're going to protect your franchise. Look, we saw what happened a season ago with Joey B. His offensive line was just not that good. You got to have premier offensive tackles, especially at that position, to protect your franchise. What says you guys? What do you think of Evan Neal going to the Giants?
I mean, I think anytime you have an opportunity to draft an Alabama offensive lineman, it's kind of a no-brainer. Just look across the board. They're just year in, year out just amazing. So New York needed a little offensive line help, and he's the type of guy to fill in there.
I know, and I know it was a couple of years ago. But I always just think back to, and I'm not trying to pick on him because he got hurt. I just think about this in general. the Giants, when they made the draft pick of Saquon Barkley a couple years ago, I think that we've got to a point now where if you go down the list, there's always going to be the outlier, right? You can look back to a couple years ago with Kansas City in 2020. But if you go down the list for the last decade, drafting a running back high, especially in the first round, has not panned out well for a lot of these teams. Now, of course, guys can go into free agency. Guys can get signed, right? Like Sony Michel, drafted by the Patriots. What happens a couple years later? Rams signed him. Of course, they won a Super Bowl. My point being is if you're trying to build a franchise, you need to be able to focus on guys that are going to be able to, A, get the ball to the receiver, or be able to protect up front. If you're trying to rebuild, that's where the Giants are at right now. And, as Rick just pointed out, I mean, that's a big boy. That's a big boy up there. So I think the Giants, I mean, look, you don't know what you're going to do with your quarterback situation. I mean, that whole with Daniel Jones, it seems like the wind is blowing back and forth every day. So who knows really what they're going to ultimately do with him. And that just sucks for him to be in that situation. But if you don't know what you want to do at quarterback, hey, build up front, because whoever you do have back there, at least he'll hopefully be protected.
So look, all of us played at lower level college athletics. Okay. For me, this is when I knew. Okay, and look, as an FCS guy, when I saw Evan Neal, and
except
you guys
for Cole,
know,
except for Cole, who kicked in front of a million, but he did. But he's one of us. He's one of us.
True.
He's one of us, though. He's one of us.
He is one of us. One of us.
He kicked at what it used to be called Multi-Sport Stadium, which they said maybe 1 million times in his first game, which was awesome because Sean McDonough is a Massachusetts guy and was on the broadcast on ABC. So it just hey, Multi-Sport Stadium. Yeah, we probably should name that stadium. So Cole probably played a big role with us actually getting a name for the stadium.
So 2 things. I'll tell you about Sean. Remind me of the story, Cole, before you leave. If whatever reason I don't say it, about what Sean did that opening weekend. But when Evan Neal was sitting on the box jumps, and you guys know they put 3, 4, 5 or whatever. Well, this dude put 6 boxes up there. Okay, and he's sitting down, and then he explodes from sitting down and jumps on the 6 boxes. I'm like, bum, 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 bum. He's a first number 1 overall pick. The dude at 337, you shouldn't be able to do that. He's an athletic freak. And I love him. Speaking of Sean, I didn't forget. The entire media during your first game, McDonough was walking up and telling everybody, Cole Tracy's he's a beast. He's a beast. Walking up and down the sidelines. And we're like, dude, is he mumbling to himself? And then he starts texting everybody the Auburn week and I effing told you. I effing told you. So I don't know if you and him are best buds. But nevertheless, he loves you, brother.
That's funny. Going back and watching the broadcast, and it was awesome for them to tell a story, and then obviously pretty much every single game they would talk about it. But it was great just to kind of pay back assumption, because obviously that you don't get to the finish line without a starting point. So it was just a lot of fun.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's pay some bills very quickly. We got Pete Futek right here coming up. Just want to talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, they're our number 1 sponsor at AYS and Bleav. Go over there, use the promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to use your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. That's betonline.ag. All right, let's bring in our good friend Pete here. Pete, what's going on, man? How are we doing tonight?
Is there a draft or something, or you're not watching NBA playoffs? They seem to be pretty good. No, it's NFL draft night. This is fun. This is what we're here for. This is, Christmas Day for, football geeks like us who love college and the NFL draft. This is the fun stuff.
Well, Pete, I do got to say, as a Louisiana guy that's not too far from New Orleans, it's really difficult to me to, I got the Pelicans on over here, and I got the draft on over here in our studio.
Yeah, but your LSU guys are done for a while, so you can kind of watch.
I can kind of watch both, right? So it's all good. Yeah. Absolutely. Look, Drake London just comes off the board, so I ask you first, the USC. He's the first guy. I guess, what do you think? I thought he was a really good athlete, but I'm surprised he goes over Chris Olave. But what's your thoughts on Drake London?
Where'd he go? I just didn't see just now.
Well, we can do this. Pooh Bear, one of our great producers. Pooh Bear, give us their pick.
With the number 8 pick, the Dirty
He already
Birds?
forgot.
No,
The Atlanta Falcons.
They selected Drake London out of USC.
They needed a receiver. Here's the big curveball so far in this draft. Anybody who kind of thought, okay, these quarterbacks are gonna go. Carolina's gonna go Malik Willis because they don't have apparently they said they like Sam Darnold, but who does? They don't have a pick until the 4th round. So if they were gonna get a quarterback, that would have been the time. I thought Atlanta was gonna go quarterback. Marcus Mariota's on a backup, getting paid like a backup. They could have gone quarterback here, but they desperately needed a wide receiver. Drake London, if he's healthy, and this is going to be one of the themes because between Drake London, Jameson Williams, David Ojabo, there's going to be some great talents who are injured who are going to move on down, and obviously they think London's going to be all right.
I kick it to you, brother.
I'm never big at wide receivers early on, especially when we're talking about. I'm not trying to crap on the guy, but I mean we went into this draft knowing that it's not as sexy as it was last year.
Or will be next year.
Surprised. I'm just
Right.
I'm just surprised. I'm just a little surprised. I'm a little surprised. I mean, you look at what the Falcons probably need. I mean, shoot.
Can you name a wide
right now?
receiver for the Atlanta Falcons?
No.
Exactly. They don't have one. I mean, the Calvin Ridley thing is a problem. They don't have any receivers. Now, I kind of think you let someone else develop, to your point, I think you let someone else develop your receiver through free agency and you go find them there. The quarterbacks just aren't there. They just aren't good enough compared to what they were last year and certainly what they're going to be next year when we get Bryce Young and CJ Stroud coming out. But if that's your guy, if that's your best player available, then go for it. I kind of like the offensive tackles in this draft. They went off the board earlier. Mm-hmm. The defensive guys are starting to fly off a little bit. So this is right about the range where the wide receivers are going to start coming off. And so it's actually a good time. And London, when he's healthy, that dude was dominant last year in just the 8 games he was able to play in.
Pete, let me throw this your way because you do have the Seahawks who are picking now. Look, Russell Wilson out. You don't really have an experienced quarterback in. I'm not screaming Malik Willis here, but do you think that they pull the trigger?
I think they probably wait a little while. I can't remember right off the top of my head when they have that early 2nd round pick, but I know they have I think they have a later 1st round pick where they could still go after a quarterback who's going to drop at that point. And that's where you're going to have Pickett, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, who I'm not a fan of, but he's going to be around there. So you can wait for a quarterback there. Now, if you're going quarterback, you're not just going, we need a position, we're going to take a guy. You got to have a set mindset that that's going to be our man. So they got to know that. But Seattle's always the curveball. They always go they're a different sort of franchise when it comes to drafting. They just take their guy. They don't necessarily care about the boards and values or whatever everybody else is saying. They're just going to take the guy who fits what they are looking for. I think they go defense. I think they find a guy who's going to be able to fly around a little bit, wait for that quarterback later. But if Pickett and Willis are still there, it's not a bad option because you can't live life in the NFL with Drew Lock as your starting quarterback and Geno Smith as another option.
Well, Cole Tracy, former LSU kicker, says we need to go long snapper, we need to go kicker, we need to go special teams, right, Cole? Like that's what
Matt Ariza, San Diego State punter, not too early. The funny part about that though is the NFL draft. The 1st round, you have to really try hard to not get a starter for your team. The 2nd round, it's about a 50-50 shot. 3rd round, it falls off the map. It is a wasteland to find a starter. If you do the metrics, punter, kicker, long snapper, that is the best pick in the later rounds value-wise you can possibly get if you find one who's a good one.
You know what yesterday was, Pete? The 10-year anniversary of the Jaguars drafting a punter in the 3rd round. They might have reached a little bit too much.
Who did they take? Who was it? How am I blanking on that? A punter in the they had like 57 picks in that draft too.
Was it Angler?
To go back and check myself, Jaguars.
Well, I know that Tampa picked your boy from Florida State in the 3rd round too, but I don't know if that was 10 years ago. Cole, what was the kid from Florida State?
Roberto, yeah.
Right.
And it was Brian Anger. Anger.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Camarillo.
Didn't he make like 13 straight Pro Bowls though?
He may have, but I'm just saying, just the idea of drafting a punter in the 3rd round 10 years ago,
Look, that would be perfect for this draft because this is not the sexy draft. And I can tell you anecdotally from page views and interest and who's on. Last year was on fire because you had all the quarterbacks and you had the Chicago Bears trade and you have where's Trey Lance going, where's Mac Jones going. You had that was the draft everyone wants. Next year is going to be awesome. Now the problem with this draft, Travon Walker is good. He's a good pick at number 1. He's probably number 6 if you have Will Anderson available, CJ Stroud available, Jackson Smith and Digbo, who'd be the number 1 receiver off the board in this draft, and certainly Bryce Young if he was available. So the whole 3 years out of high school thing kind of screws us up a little bit.
I'm going to kick this to all three of you. I was really hopeful for this draft because last year's draft had the least amount of draft eligible guys, right? Because a lot of guys came back for the COVID year, right? And I was like, oh, dude, next year's draft is going to be so stacked. It wasn't.
It actually kind of is.
Okay.
It's not a sexy draft, but infrastructure can be sexy. You can get linemen, but you don't have the stars. The receivers are good. Running backs never go early anymore. You don't have a number 1 guy like Bijan Robinson.
Are we just missing the quarterbacks? To rudely interrupt you, is it just the quarterbacks we're really missing, though? You think?
Pretty much. That's it. That's the franchise changer. Travon Walker, again, you're not that Georgia team. You could make an argument that he wasn't the 7th best pro prospect on his own defense, and he's number 1 overall. Jordan Davis is the guy. That's my guy from that Georgia D. But Nakobe Dean is there. There's all sorts of Georgia guys. Aidan Hutchinson, all right, fine, but again, I don't think he captivated the imagination of the world. And then you're right, there's just not the quarterbacks there, and quarterbacks are what sell in the first round.
I kick it to you two guys. What do you think?
I agree. I think, especially as a Seahawks fan, sitting here at number 9 with it saying that the pick's in, I hope we don't go and get one of these quarterbacks. I'm not sold on Drew Lock, trust me, but I think an offensive lineman would be the pick right here.
They're going to be happy, Cole.
Here, let's go build the offense.
Charles Cross? Is that him? Is that who's going to come up here?
So Zach, our other producer. Okay, Zach, what's the pick?
It is Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State.
I like it. And Pete, it's so funny you say that, right? Because then all of a sudden here comes the offensive lineman, right, from the SEC, another one. Look, let me say this. Just watching Mississippi State a lot this past year, obviously just covering the SEC, he was probably the most underrated guy, I felt like, in maybe the top 10 prospects when you watch him on film. Look, he went up against B.J. Ojulari. He went up against Will Anderson. He went up against all these guys in the SEC. He didn't give up a sack. And so when I'm watching him, I'm like, look, man, he's got good feet. He's got good power. And quite honestly, I thought he could have been maybe the number 2 guy coming off the board at tackle, but he's number 3. I think it's a good pick. What says
to your direct point about why this draft isn't this jazz hand splashy is that Charles Cross is great because you didn't notice him. And that's a positive. He just erases his guy. He's just a good football player. The measurables aren't quite there compared to Ekwonu and Evan Neal, but he's just a quiet football player who just doesn't give up big plays, and that's what you want in your offensive tackle in the NFL level. Right.
Blake, one thing I want to piggyback off of what Pete mentioned. This is, for people that are nerds, or they just like these kind of the whole star metrics, right? Based on last year in Gamecock Central, we're over on 3 now, so I'm using the on 3 metrics. If you go back to last year's 2021 NFL draft and you look at the top 10 picks, only 2 of those players were 5 stars coming out of high school. So far tonight, out of the 9 picks, I want to make sure I can count right. Math was not one of my strong points. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 top 5. We have 4 5 stars coming out of high school that have been drafted in the top 9 so far.
That's insane.
Well, that goes to the measurables on this. Is that why did Travon Walker go all measurables? Why did Sauce Gardner go where he went? Measurables. He's good, but measurables. Derek Stingley, measurables. Kayvon Thibodeau, measurables. This is not really the college production draft. Thibodeau didn't do much anything last year. Stingley didn't do anything last year. Walker wasn't even an all SEC pick, I think. But
he was second team, I believe.
Yeah. But he wasn't like the star of stars for this thing. So to your point overall is that these are 5-star guys for a reason, because they are the best measurable guys. They weren't necessarily the best college football players in 2021.
Yuva, I kick it over to you. The Jets are here. Who do you see the Jets going with? I think that they need a receiver too, quite honest, or a tackle. Literally, let's just be honest. They could use
Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson would be my guess if he's still on the board there. They swore, though. The coaching staff couldn't, for the last 6 months, were like, Robert Saleh's like, we don't need to drop a big draft pick on defensive backs. We'll just get one. They devalue the position stuff. Whether they do, Sauce Gardner comes off the board when he's right there. So another one of these cases where, these guys stay and talk and talk and talk. They go somewhere else. My guess, if Drake London's gone, is that they're going to go Garrett Wilson.
All right, Yuva, what says you?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it before. Now I'm going against everything I said, that I don't like wide receivers early on. But when you look at what the Jets need and look at what's available right now, I mean, it might not hurt. It might not hurt to go after Garrett Wilson. I mean, he's a guy that obviously went up against some very good competition in the Big Ten. He's proven himself at that level. I like the size that he has. I think, too, when you look at it from an offensive line standpoint, I mean, some of the better guys have already gone. That's not to say that there's not good offensive linemen here, but when you're trying to look for the best guy available, I think Wilson might be the guy for them.
And again, the crazy part about it is Wilson's probably the third best Buckeye receiver last year.
Yeah.
Smith-Njigba was the best. Olave was the smoothest. Wilson just has a 4.3. He's
and
great.
We're not even talking about another guy who was on that team, at Jamison Williams.
Yep. Couldn't even get in. Yeah, it's
right.
Crazy.
I'm gonna go Kyle Hamilton, safety, Notre Dame. I just think, for me, he's the best player left on my board. I don't think you can go wrong with him. I know you need the receiver, and look, I get it. But look, I think Kyle Hamilton's special. I think he reminds me a lot of Jamal Adams, if we're going to do the LSU pick here or comparable. But Cole, what says you, my brother?
I think you get a little Wilson to Wilson connection in New York. Jets fans, they don't really care. I mean, they care about winning, but let's be real. So they just like fun things to get excited about. And I think if you go and give them a wide receiver right here, they'll spend the next couple months chirping and saying how they're going to the Super Bowl. So
Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, though, you got 2 4.3 guys. That's a lot of speed to give to that guy with that arm.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So Pete,
probably not going to take Garrett Wilson, but yeah, we already handed him to the Jets already, so now they got to take him.
Well, Pete, we're going to do this since you're here, since you just called it, because we know we're about to have to let you go, and I appreciate your time, but we're going to let you do it. With the 15th pick in the New York Jets select, go ahead.
Is it Garrett Wilson, wide
You're
receiver,
damn right.
Ohio State? I gave you Garrett Wilson. I'm done. This is as good as it's ever going to get. I'm never going to do this again, be able to do this again.
Can you tell me who the Saints are selecting, please?
They're going to go Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pittsburgh.
My Bleav mock draft, everybody called me stupid for picking him at 19 if he was still there.
Now that he's still there, I thought he was going to go to Atlanta, so that shows you what I know. So take that for what it's worth.
Pete, you've been fantastic, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a great rest of the night, guys.
Thanks, Pete.
That's Pete Uchek. Thank you so much. Oh, wrong button. And
Blake, looks like Cole might have to get going too.
All right,
Yeah.
Cole, thank you so much. Hey, look, if you want to play hokey pokey all night, if we're still here at 11:30 and you want to come back in, you're more than welcome. Let me tell you why you're welcome, Cole Tracy. Because of what you did for LSU in 2018. Not because of Yuva. Yuva gets a lot of credit here, but it's because of you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I was looking at the schedule, and I think I really want to go to the Tennessee game in Baton Rouge. I feel like the Tennessee fans, I was looking at the schedule, which Alabama, no, I don't know if we're ready for that. I think the Tennessee game's the one I'm going to be at.
Okay, we got to get to Carter Bryant here in just a second. But Tracy and Yuva, drinks on me the Friday night before the game if you come for Tennessee.
I love it.
I got to find out who the Gamecocks are playing. I got to do work the next day unless I can get that Brian Kelly private plane. We also went to the same high school, so maybe Brian will throw me a bone.
Cough, sick, take some sick leave. That's what I say. Beers are forever, brother. All right, Cole. Man, seriously, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, let's go, Tracy. Let's do this. Carter the Power Bryant joining us next. We're about an hour and 18 in here. Let's do this. Let's take a very quick break, very quick commercial break. The pick will be in. Well, actually, did the Saints just move up? Well, the Saints did just move up. But let's take a very quick break, and then we'll come back right back. Carter Power Bryant joining us. Our partners over at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino and poker games. It's easy to get started, so head on over to their website, use betonline.ag, use that promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, that's BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. With the first pick in the NFL draft, Ball Saxonville has decided to pick Manscaped to stock up their Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have sponsored us and AYS to make sure that you do not get booed out of the bedroom, just like NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Support us by heading over to manscaped.com. That's manscaped.com, and use the exclusive code AYS at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com. Use that promo code AYS at checkout for 20% off plus that free shipping. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Gramco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast, as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25. Carter the Power. Carter the Power. Carter the Power. My good friend, Carter the Power Bryant, joining us. Carter, this is my friend Mike Yuva. This
What's going on, man? That's good. Good to see everyone. Blake, I love every time when you have me on your lovely YouTube channel. There's always chaos. And the Saints, I was getting excited. I was like, holy crap, I'm going to be on here with Cole Tracy. I've never met Cole, never talked to Cole. I was like, and then you kick him off. I didn't kick him off.
Yuva kicked him off.
No. Cole said he had to get going. I don't know. He's got to do important non-9 to 5 stuff because, I mean, he's a big boy now, as he told us. You know,
and he had
he's getting some Gramco and placing bets on betonline.ag.
But it was crazy because he had like the most picturesque background. I was like, goodness.
He's got a nice. If he's out. I don't know if he's at his parents' place right now. I mean, the world got to see it a little bit when they had the. I think it was the kick against Auburn. And they had like the party at the Tracy household, and all hell broke loose. And, you know, I don't know if it was his aunt, cousin. I don't know. Someone was running around the house with the iPhone, and all I could think about was not the kick. I was just like, well, that's a pretty nice looking house right there. So, I mean, I don't know if Cole's got his own wing to the house. I don't know what's going on out there in California.
So guys, if you just missed it, we do have a trade here. Albert Breer, our good friend who's been on the show multiple times, says the Saints are trading the 16th pick, a 3rd rounder and 4th rounder to Washington for the 11th pick that go in front of Minnesota. Guys, I'm going to continue to beat the drum. I think he's the best player still on the board. I don't know if they're going. I think they go wide receiver here. I feel like they kind of have to. But if they don't go wide receiver, I'm going all Kyle Hamilton. I think Marcus Williams goes to the Jets. Okay, you get probably the best guy on the board. but they really, 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 really need a receiver. What do you guys think here that the Saints do?
I'll let Mike go first. Go right on ahead, Mike.
Shoot, I think they might go defense. I think you have to build that defense up a little bit. I mean, the question is, do you go with the best available? You mentioned, Hamilton, or do they go with someone, on the defensive line? I mean, one guy that I just absolutely love is Jordan Davis, because even though he's a defensive tackle and just built like an absolute robot, the guy moves like a defensive end. He moves like an outside linebacker. So if you're talking about, okay, we might need that fit right there. Do we feel like he might drop a little bit? He might, but if you love the guy right now, take him. I really, really like Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I just don't think I would get rid of draft capital to get a nose tackle that stops the run, right?
Mm-hmm.
I only like trading up in the first round if you're getting a quarterback or someone that's going to the passing game. So, Blake, if I were in the Saints position right now and you view Kyle Hamilton as a guy who was a top 5 pick prior to, his slow combine score, then you take him right here if you truly believe he could be, the Marcus Williams. But, I mean, I just don't think it's worth, trading up to get a safety either. So unless you're just in love with one wide receiver and they're way higher on your board than everyone else, then you don't move here. So for me, I would be shocked if it was Jordan Davis, but we'll see. This is a fun part of the draft. Let's go.
I got to tell you something. As a staunch Saints fan, the simple fact that they're letting Miami Vice's own Tony Gonzalez make the pick as a former Atlanta Falcons tight end is, what are we doing here, guys?
Wait, is that Tony G?
That's Tony G. I mean, look, so what? He's got the great hair, the great tan, the great hands. He's got a lot of money. Who cares?
Well, when the guy is probably worth millions now because, Jeff Bezos is getting his sloppy seconds now. So you can do anything.
Interesting society note there, Carter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, once you get in that billionaire realm and you start hanging out with those guys, you're always in the mix.
That's a good looking suit, though. That's a good looking suit on Tony G.
Hey, so very quickly,
man, I want those threads,
dude. Those are nice. That suit is nice. And look, when you got millions, floss it.
Yeah, must be nice.
All right, here we go.
Man,
God, I got to do this, Yuva, because I'm a big Saints guy. Bleav in the Saints. News coming soon. I'm anxious, guys. I got to be honest. I'm a little anxious. I can't hear. Oh no! Who did they pick?
Okay, good. Okay, this is a little bit better. Austin Eckler. When I saw a bald shiny head, I was like, oh, they got Lance Moore all the way out here for this. I was getting excited. Huh?
Right.
I'm listening to it with it on mute right now, so I can't hear anything. So I just see them cutting to the Chargers fans and the Chiefs fans. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? But there it is, receiver.
Chris Olave. There you go. All right, so hold on. We'll let Pooh Bear come in here and do it. Pooh Bear, I ruined it for you, but with the 11th pick, the New Orleans Saints select.
With the 11th pick, our New Orleans Saints pick Chris Olave from Ohio State University.
I like that, right? Like Ohio State. Look, the love affair with the Saints and Ohio State players is ridiculous. However, Chris Olave is probably one of, if not the best wide receiver in the draft. Carter, we'll kick it to you first, and then Yuva, I want you to go right after him. Power, what do you think about Olave?
Yeah, obviously, he's very similar to Justin Jefferson, all the way down to his jersey number, right? Elite route runner, a guy that, even if he's in the slot, can obviously get vertical in the passing game. We saw it, in the Clemson National semifinal game last year. And, quite honestly, he was really good for obviously Ohio State last year as well. He obviously had great quarterback play, with, the two quarterbacks over the past couple of seasons. This is just my personal preference. Blake, Olave was actually my wide receiver 3. I'm a big believer in Traylon Burks. That's who I would have selected and just waited until 19 to get him. But I can understand if you feel that Chris Olave is a missing piece and you feel like he was going to get selected from now until 16, then you have to go get him, especially if you think he's going to be, a Justin Jefferson level player. But I do like the process. So I'm glad that they traded up to get someone that affects the passing game. So I am happy that they actually made the move for wide receiver instead of, getting an off-ball linebacker or anything in that spot, or even Kyle Hamilton. I would prefer them getting a wide receiver here, and I'm glad that they did.
Well, let me ask you this question, though. You got Adam Thielen and you got Justin Jefferson. Why do you trade before Minnesota to go and do that? Like, I don't know how much sense that makes. What do you think about that?
I mean, it just all comes down to who's behind them. And do they feel like another team could have traded up and took their spot? I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, I'm not saying anything that is earth-shattering or are, reinventing the wheel here. I mean, the reality is if you fall in love with a guy that badly and you're just afraid that they could fall out of your grasp, then you move up. And I think that's the reality here with the Saints. And when you look at the weapons they have at receiver, I think, for Olave, he's going into a situation where he doesn't necessarily have to be the guy. There's so many times when you have such young receivers that they come in and it's kind of one of those situations where it's like, well, we expect you to be the guy early on in your career, or it's kind of one of those things that maybe it's not said, but it just naturally happens where they're going to be going up against the number one cornerback against the other team every week just because they are the top option that they have at wide receiver. I mean, we talk about Michael Thomas then, but you also look at a guy like Deontay Harris. I mean, what he does in the slot. I mean, they have so many weapons at wide receiver right now. Now, of course, when you look at the Saints from top to bottom, there's a lot of other holes that they need to fill, but wide receiver right now is certainly a strength of theirs.
Woo!
Well, look, I mean, Lions trade up, so maybe the Saints knew something maybe that we didn't. Okay, so we do have a trade here. The Lions come all the way up to 12 from 32, and they go, and I don't know where they're going to pick here. You still got quarterbacks on the board. I know that they have Jared Goff, the remains of Sean McVay, but I mean, look, I don't know why you do that, but I think I kind of agree with you. If he's the best guy, at some point you got to go up and get him, right? Yeah. And you got to go take your guy. Interesting nugget here, guys. I was sent this from a listener. Do you know that Mike Thomas and Chris Olave have a very serious connection, like are really, really close to one another? And I wonder, if Mike Thomas, to settle some debates here, if Mike Thomas goes and says, hey, I haven't really been treated well, in his opinion, go get Chris Olave. Look, Carter, this is twice you've been on my show this week and I've thrown a conspiracy theory at you. But look, man, those kind of things happen though.
Yeah.
Hey, conspiracy theory. Spooky. Okay. But what says you? Do you think Mike Thomas has anything to do with this, or is this just a need?
It might be. Honestly, like you said about the Ohio State thing, man, part of it is just Mickey Loomis wanting to troll LSU fans more, right? Just because you hear it all the time, Blake, I hear it all the time. I did a draft video yesterday, and it's like, why do we draft all these Buckeyes? Oh, my goodness. And here's the funny thing about it is, well, it's worked, right? And the second thing is, well, LSU beat Ohio State in New Orleans, so why are we even mad about it? Ohio State is never going to beat LSU in any big spot because they are, like Pooh Bear said, Ohio State University. I'll never say Ohio State University.
I'm with you. Zach, come up here and announce this pick for us, brother.
We'll get Zach?
Yeah, we got Zach. We got two producers tonight, bro. We're growing.
Let's go, Zach.
What's up?
All right.
Well, with the 12th pick, the Detroit Lions do select Jameson Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama.
Carter, I know me and you talked about this, so I'm going to go to you with this. I think of the skill players, okay, that were in this draft, for me, maybe because we all cover the SEC the most and watch Alabama maybe the most outside of our own respective teams, Jameson Williams surprised me more than I ever thought that he could. The speed, the route running, and you know what's even crazier about him? he was the gunner for special teams on punts.
Mhm.
I kick it over to you. What do you think that they're getting in Jameson?
Well, I think the only question mark that, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, starting with question marks, is coming back from that ACL injury.
Right.
I think that's the first thing that you got to look at. But I mean, look, it's crazy to think when we talk about ACL injuries now in comparison to maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, guys are just coming back from them quicker than ever before, and it's kind of like one of those injuries now where it's like guys are coming back even stronger than they were before. So I think, if he comes back, he's healthy, he's able, and I think it's more of a mental thing than anything else, right? He's able to come back. People think about the physical side of it more than anything, but it's more so the mental side when you're not thinking about it. I think if he's able to do that quickly, he's going to be able to be a guy that can make an impact. The question now is, what does the quarterback situation for the Lions look like in a couple of years from now? I mean, because the reality is if they keep feeling like, all right, we got to keep hitting the reset button, quarterback's one of those positions you look at first to reset, right? So I'm just thinking more long-term for the Lions right now.
Carter, your response?
I love that Dan Campbell, the notorious kneecap biter himself, would be the one that trades up to get someone with an ACL injury. I hate this move. I do. I
didn't really put that together until you just said it, and then I reset it in my head. I was like, I got it now.
Do we have to have a biology lesson here for you, Blake? Do we have to?
I know. And look, as a guy who tore his ACL twice, I mean, it just I was like kneecaps, and then I forgot the Campbell thing. But you're right.
Oh, who could forget to bite the kneecap? I know you've been live streaming for a while. So here's the thing: you're trading up to get a wide receiver who can't play until November or December. By the way, Jared Goff is still your quarterback. How is that going to even work? You're still the Lions. Here's the thing: if you're trading up, right, at least take a shot. You have the opportunity to take whoever you think the best quarterback is in this draft. And let's just say if the Lions did like Malik Willis for whatever reason, and let's just say it doesn't work out, you could still do the Josh Rosen thing and just draft Bryce Young next year if you're still terrible, right? If I were the Lions, I would, throw a dart, especially if I'm trading up to take whoever I think the best quarterback is on the board, just because of the positional value. But instead, you're going to trade up and get a wide receiver who can't play until November. I don't know. I just think that this is a horrible move. And it's funny how in this football league where, you can legit get a Joe Burrow miracle to happen. The Jaguars select a guy. He gets in a car wreck before the actual thing. He's fine, Travon Walker. And now, we're, according to Ian Rappaport, maybe, I think Ian's pretty accurate. And now you have this team, the Lions, who have been horrible for quite some time. Right. I just don't like this move. It's just bad.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't remember Kyle Hamilton coming off the board. Am I nuts? I mean, no. Kyle Hamilton's still on the board, is he not? I mean, what is a wide receiver that's playing and you're having to wait to November to December to play when you can have an impact guy like Kyle Hamilton now? That's the stuff that I just don't get. I don't understand it. Now, this is the stuff that pisses me off. Okay. You wonder why you're so bad. It's because of that. Now, I think he's a really good player. I think Williamson's a very, very, very good player. Look, we saw what he did to Georgia. If he can get back to that, then he's a lightning bolt. But he can't play right now. Are you looking in the future? But who's going to throw him the ball? I don't know. Are you kind of upset like me, though? I mean, I'm not even a Detroit fan. I just get mad at incompetence.
I just don't understand why you trade up for a guy that's come back from an injury. So we can look at it, but we can look at it this way. We can look at it like this, right? The Lions ranked 25th in the league last year for points scored. They ranked 31st in defense, though, for points allowed. They gave up over 450 points, 467 to be exact. So when you look at that, it's like, all right, what makes more sense? Do we go after a guy from a defensive standpoint that, maybe he didn't run the fastest 40, maybe he's below average, but outside of that, pretty dang good football player? Or do we go after a guy that's come back from an ACL injury to play wide receiver on an offensive side that is just there's so many question marks as to how you're going to get the ball to him in a couple, because I don't, and I'm not trying to just shit on Goff here, but I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the quarterback of that team in 3 years.
Right.
I don't.
No, he won't be the quarterback of the team next year.
He might.
And
Well,
I'll say this about Jameson Williams, right? He has the most important trait when it comes to wide receiver play, which is the ability to get behind a safety. I mean, he's so good at that, right? Like he's just really good at getting down the field and making explosive plays happen. So that is a very tough trait to find. There's not many of those guys out there, and he's got it, right? And it's not just speed. It's just the ability to explode out of routes. That's clearly a big part of his game. And I'll go one step further as far as Jameson Williams. He's not the best wide receiver that's played at Alabama, right? Julio's better. Devonta Smith, obviously, with the Heisman. I would even take Jalen Waddle over him. But he was the most valuable, right? I've never seen an offense go just completely off the deep end when he didn't play. Going back to what you said a minute ago, Blake, him getting ejected for targeting as a gunner for Auburn, they almost lost the game because of that, because he wasn't there.
Right.
And then you look at some of the other games where he didn't play, obviously the Georgia
And him being out against Georgia in the Natty game.
Yeah, and that becomes a big thing between Georgia and Alabama fans. What if the ACL injury was better, or whatever? It's so crazy how much he changed that Alabama offense, right? So, I think he's amazing. I just don't like that situation. And his knee injury did happen on a turf field, and the Lions play on, a turf field. Most teams do. So, still, I don't know if I like that fit at all.
Well, and here's another thing. Jermaine Johnson's on the board from Florida State.
Yeah.
You win the games. Oh, look at Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com. But you win the games up front. And Yuva, you talked about this pretty much in your whole opening monologue, right? Like, you win the games up front. Mm-hmm. And, for the life of me, man, like, at some point, you got to take a shot at a guy that may, if you're the Lions, right? Like, if you're iffy on a guy, right? Like, if you're just iffy, okay, and you don't know if he can play, or maybe you select that guy because the guys that you're thinking can play never can, that, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I just don't know what the hell the Lions are thinking. I really don't. But then again, I think one of the people in the comments section brought it up, Chris. I think they said it best. The Lions are the NFC version of the Jets. Pretty spot on.
Right.
One more thing, Blake. Amon-Ra St. Brown was their good rookie wide receiver. He's not a deep threat. He's Jarvis Landry. So maybe that they panicked because the other wide receivers aren't of that ilk. That's not what they do either, right? They're not burners. In particular, Garrett Wilson. Let's just say that they like Garrett Wilson a lot. He probably doesn't pair well with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Every offense has got to have a guy that can lift the top off of it. So, I think that's part of their thinking as well.
Well, look, the Eagles pick is in, and we'll try to get to that. Any idea where they go very quickly?
Well, I just saw it, so I won't say anything.
Okay. Well, hold on. You know what? You can announce it.
Well, with the 13th overall pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select defensive tackle Jordan Davis.
Let's go! Fat man, stand up. Fat man can jump. Look, me and Carter got in a Twitter Spaces debate, Yuva, a while back. We were talking about defensive linemen. You know what's so wild? That for a long time, he was considered to be a Heisman Trophy contender. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, the SEC title game. Look, dude's a freak.
Oh, I saw him. I saw what he did against South Carolina. I mean, that man, that's a big boy. And I'll never forget. I mean, there's a great soundbite from Shane Beamer after the Georgia game. One of our local reporters was like, what was the issue up front or something along that line? I'm just paraphrasing. And Shane Beamer's like, well, they have like 1,000 5-stars on defense. And they have a guy that's like 6'6" that moves like 4'4", 4'5". So, the point being is obviously that defense will go down as one of the best defenses in college football. And I'm not trying to use any recency bias. I mean, that's just That's just the reality. I mean, that was a freaking good defense. But Jordan Davis played a big part of that. Now, were there times throughout the season that maybe you felt like, all right, he didn't show up, or, where was he out there at times? Of course. But at the same time, too, number one, you're playing in the SEC, and you're at that position when you're hitting someone play after play after play, and you think about the number of weeks that you're going up against that type of talent, I mean, it is going to add up on you. I think the thing with him is the question that's going to come down is, where are they going to use him more so? I mean, are they going to have him just straight up? I mean, I don't want to talk over people's heads here in terms of, shades and this and that, but the point being is he's so big up front, from an interior standpoint, that you can get creative with him. You can really move him around because he brings that extra versatility because of his speed.
He just hugged Roger Goodell, and Roger broke his back. I'm pretty sure Goodell just
look at that suit
back.
that he's wearing.
I mean, look, that's the longest sash of red I've ever seen in my life.
Look at that ring, but look at that ring too that he's got on.
Oh, dude, it's massive.
Carter, that's a massive ring.
Carter, look, I mean, he did take plays off. I mean, they're showing it right now. But when he's on, he's on. I mean, you're 6'6", 330 pounds running a 4.7. What's your thoughts on Jordan Davis?
Well, LSU could use one of those guys to play their nose in their new defense. It's interesting. Mike made a very interesting point about Georgia and their 5 stars up front. What was interesting about Jordan Davis was he was a 3-star out of Mallard Creek.
Hey, what position was he? What position did he come out as?
I have no idea. I just remember seeing he was a 3-star.
Mike, now you recover recruiting, I believe. Wasn't it a tight end? Wasn't he a tight end coming out?
I'm going to look at it right now because
okay.
I'm not your resident.
Wild? He showed up on Georgia's campus at 240 pounds as a tight end.
That's crazy.
If I'm not mistaken,
well,
that 90 pounds.
That would be the craziest body transformation of all time. Yeah, I just remember seeing him as a 3-star. I think he's from Mallard Creek. I think that's where Thad Moss went as well. What's very interesting is if I'm like a elite Power 5 school, and I see Chris Olave, who was a 3-star, just get drafted really high, and Jordan Davis. It's crazy how many of the 3-star guys, or just not top 250 guys, still go to the elite Power 5s, and they still turn out to be ridiculous, right? We're just talking about Justin Jefferson a minute ago, and Clyde, and obviously, Olave, Michael Thomas. It just makes it even more unfair, the haves and the have-nots. But as far as Jordan Davis, I mean, he's obviously a special 2-gap player, right? He just throws centers around like it's nothing. And I think you look at the way the NFL is right now, everyone's looking at, Brandon Staley's light box, 5-6 guys in the box. And I understand Jordan Davis isn't an elite pass rusher, but having him just in that box allows you to commit more guys into the passing game. And look, the NFC South, now that the new coach of the Giants is there, who obviously Brian Dable, and then, you have Dak in there, got a lot of good vertical passing games. So that allows you, to not commit as many numbers. And Blake, I don't want to say his name because I know you have nightmares.
I know. We're gonna have to tell Yuva about it. We're gonna have to tell Yuva about it.
That guy is getting a little old, so you do need to get a little bit younger up front.
So Yuva, and to anybody that doesn't know, when I was a red-shirted freshman, I went up against this guy. I know you might not be able to see it. Maybe the camera's not. Fletcher Cox from Mississippi State. He broke me off a new one. He took my lunch. He took my lunch money. My girlfriend broke up with me the next day. She was Jayden Fletcher Cox. I mean, my whole life got flipped upside down. So Fletcher Cox, shout out. You still stink. No one likes you, but they do get Jordan Davis. Good friends with Fletcher Cox. Just throwing that out there. Carter, the Pellies are up. I'm going to either you can do one or two things. Either you can stay with us, or you can go watch the Pels fourth quarter. It's up to you. What would you like to do?
Well, it just depends. I mean, don't you have another guest coming up?
Yeah, but you could stay on. I mean, it's up to you. Go watch the Pellies.
Okay, I'll go watch the Pellies. I said I was going to hang around, but I'll see you later. Mike, it's good to meet you.
Likewise.
Let's do it. I'm glad the Saints have already picked. So
they got 19.
They got 19. What do you think they're going to do really quickly?
They're going Kenny Pickett. That's what I believe.
All right, guys. We'll talk soon.
Later, Carter. All right. We got a front office guy. I mean, like legitimately a guy that scouts front office. I hope he's wearing his World Series ring. That's all that I know. Like, I hope he's wearing his World Series ring. But before we get to our good friend Benny Latino, I just want to give a shout out to our main sponsors and our sponsors of tonight's show, betonline.ag. Guys, your number one source for all of your betting needs. Go over there today. Use the 50% welcome bonus by using the promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. That way that they know that Mike and Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. Okay. The man, the myth, the legend himself, the man that's drafted more Hall of Fame baseball players in the history of life, Benny Latino joins us. Benny, what's up, my guy? Hey, Benny, your mic's muted. Very quickly, your mic's muted.
How you guys doing, man?
Doing good, Benny.
Well,
How
Benny.
are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just sitting here watching the draft, man.
I love it. I love it. But very quickly, Benny, before we get to you, Zach, come on in here. My guy just got drafted. We have some news. Go ahead, Zachy.
The Ravens did select Kyle Hamilton.
Told you. We'll come back to that in just a minute. We'll come back to it. But Benny, it's a big day for a young man's life. And look, you have more front office and scouting and experience than anybody that I know. This is a big day, and you've been a part of it yourself. Just from your side, from the organization side, and for people who don't know, Benny, can you give them a little bit of a rundown of what you do, who you are, when you talk about that, and then that way they'll have it, and just give us your experience of what today would be like.
Sure. Well, I'm back scouting now, but I started out in a scout in the late 90s. And then 2005, I went to the front office in New York, and then down to the front office. I started with Tampa Bay, and then went to front office in New York, and then on the major league side, / special assistant with the Miami Marlins. And now I'm on the back end of a long career, and I'm just scouting. So I've started at the bottom, worked my way up about as high as I could get, and now I'm working my way down just to have for me personally, a better quality of life at this time.
So what's today like for you or a player? You've been around more of them. You've drafted guys. I mean, from your perspective, and Benny, I talk to you. I ask you this question all the time, and you tell me the same answer, but I ask it to you every single day I talk to you. How much of not only on the field do you scout a player as you are on the field as you do off the field? I mean, like, how much does that go into it?
It goes into it a lot. I mean, each organization, you know, each player that you have on your roster, potentially have on your roster, is a representation of your organization. And so on and off the field issues are huge. I mean, now in the time of social media, it's even expanded into social media research, going back to these kids were 13, 14 years old. I mean, a few years back, well, more than a few, about 6 years ago, when I was in New York, it's such a big media place that, you know, you just can't have you can't stub your toe on a guy that made the wrong comments at 15, 16 years old. You may have to pass depending on the severity of the comment or the tweet or whatever it may be. And I remember us doing that in one case. And that's part of it. You know, I mean, scouting, and I've got some buddies that are NFL scouts. One's actually an ex now, but we always seem to be in the same Marriott in Atlanta because that was like a hub. You'd go in there and spend the night, next night go out. We'd always be eating in the lounge bar restaurant Champs downstairs, and we talk about it, and it's basically the same footprint.
Yuva, I kick it over to you. I mean, I know you don't know Benny, but I mean, you've been around more front office guys too. I mean, what do you think?
Well, Benny brought up a good point, and I think it's interesting because I feel like now when you look at not just professional football, you look at baseball, you look at basketball, these guys are making more money than ever before. they have more fame than ever before because of social media and the influence they have and the reach that they have. So, Benny, my question is, when you see so many of these players go through the draft process, I think there's fans on the outside that look at it and they might be curious why a guy drops when they look at the talent standpoint. Have you noticed maybe over the last couple of years, whether it be baseball, whether it be some of your buddies that are in the front office for football, have you noticed maybe more time, like as you just brought up, you're investing more time about an individual from a character standpoint? I mean, a lot of these NFL teams, I think every NFL team has a psychologist, and they give them the test when they go through the process. Have you noticed that more now, and how important is that side of it going through a draft?
It's more important, and it's more evident during the football draft because everybody sees a guy with premier talent start to drop than it would be in the baseball draft. But guys, you start out the year and you scout. I mean, I imagine for the NFL teams, they probably take a few weeks off, a month, and they start looking at videos for guys for the next year's class. And then as they go into the season, and you go into the season, you scout the player and you scout the ability, and you write your reports, and you line up. Just say you're a scout that has the southeast part of the country. You line up your players on ability, not need, ability. And this guy's 1, this guy's 2, this guy's 3, all the way down the line. And when you do that, once you're finished with that, at some point, now we double back. Now we're calling coaches, trainers, even call teachers if necessary, if you run into certain red flags. And you scour, and the front office has a way of scouring the social media part, background checks, and you'll be in communication with those guys saying, hey, this is a potential. What do you got here? Dig this up. Let's learn, see what happened in this situation. But when you go into the draft, those things are all documented in his file, which is, in each scout's computer. And then when you go to the computer, the front office reads all that. So when you get in the draft room, baseball we still do it, and I imagine in football they do it. You line your players up. Let's just say the top 50 in the country, and you line them up, and they're all on magnets. They're on the board, and then there's a red dot on this one. Well, that red dot usually means there's a concern. It's a character concern. A blue dot on that magnet, maybe there's a possible injury. Maybe there's something with the knee that needs to be checked out. Or in baseball, it's more harm than anything. And our doctors are reading that file over here. So that's more information we have to get from the schools. And football is the same way. They have to get those files. They got to put them on the side. They have to have them in the office at a certain day. Then there's a little green dot usually, and for baseball, probably not as much for football, but it's for financial. Maybe this guy wants a little more money than we think he's worth or whatnot. But that's all negotiated as the draft's going on with the agents. So, but those are like the three main concerns. And when talking to guys in football, it's pretty consistent. They have it done. They do it the same way: red, blue, green. But I'm telling you, guys drop, and not on talent, but on off the field issues, more likely than not.
That's so wild you say that too, because Benny, we don't get to see that though, right? Like when we think about it, we think about, oh, well, this guy he can't play, and that's all that we talk about. When we talk about on the shows or whatever, we never rarely do we talk or even know about the off the field stuff. I mean, how much time would you say is spent more into that? Is it because, Benny, this is how I envision it. When you see a first round pick, like when you see a first round guy, I feel like you just kind of, I don't want to say but I mean, you kind of, right. And so it seems as if, or feels like to me that that's the only thing that, like, you're going to the game just to see what he does if he strikes out or if he misses a block. Like, how does he react to it,
Well, it's all based, and then you go to the game for production. But the time you spend on off the field issues, like we're getting to the end of the baseball season, and we're at that point where I will start to dig individually on each guy. And if I hear from the office that they found something in the computer, in a tweet from then we'll act accordingly. But it's a concern. And then, guys with legal issues, it's a red flag, and we'll have to investigate and see exactly what it may be, or how severe, or are there any extenuating circumstances? But each scout, believe it or not, spends a lot of one-on-one or FaceTime. During COVID, it was Zoom to really try to get a feel for the player as a person.
All right, so we have two things of breaking news in this NFL draft. I'll let my good buddy Pooh Bear from the Golden Boot podcast. So, Pooh, if you can do both picks, the one with the Texans and the one with Washington.
With the number 15 pick, the Texans selected Kenyon Green from Texas A&M, offensive tackle, and I was waiting on the music again. I'm sorry. With the number 16 pick, the Washington Commanders, that's still the dumbest name, pick Jahan Dotson from Penn State, wide receiver.
Mike, I got to be honest. I'm really surprised not by Kenyon Green. I want to come back to Kenyon Green. I'm surprised on Jahan Dotson. That kind of a head scratcher to me. What about you?
Well, I'm trying to make sure I get updated over here because some of my stuff's coming in a little bit slower than mine.
Okay. I got you. Benny, let me ask you this. We've gone literally 2 hours of this show, and you know that the one thing that we haven't discussed is name, image, and likeness. With a Texas A&M guy coming off the board, and it's ironic that you are on here with us, how much has that changed the game? Because, look, we talk in Twitter spaces, but baseball, NFL, it's completely changed the game as one of Texas A&M's guys just comes off the board. Well,
I like the Texas A&M analogy there, but anyway, being an LSU fan, but I can tell you that it's starting to play a role, and not as much in baseball, but it's starting to stick its head out. It's like the turtle. You hear about this kid. Well, he was signable, but as a high school player, but he's getting a decent amount of little money to go to college. That's popped up a couple times recently. So it makes their choice to go to college, look a lot better on paper, to be honest with you. We used to be able to buy kids out a lot easier. I foresee it being a little troublesome for the major league side.
Yuva, I kick it over to you, my friend.
I'm having some issues, guys. Audio's going in and out.
Okay. Do you need to step out for just a second?
Should be good. Now I can hear you, but it was going in and out. I don't want to make sure I'm commenting on something you guys said the complete opposite on. So if you can
think about this, and you're just like, oh yeah, I think it's a great pick.
Well, it's like the episode of Seinfeld when Elaine, she can't really hear, and she's just like, oh yeah, no, I was just the only reason I say that is I've been watching Seinfeld the last couple of days. So if you could repeat that, I can hear now. Everything's good now.
Well, I think that we just jinxed Benny because here he comes. But I was surprised on Jahan Dotson, and now we have another pick.
Yep.
The Chargers have selected Zion Johnson from Boston College. Really surprising there. Let's bring Benny's back in here. Benny, but to finish your point here, and I was going to kick it over to you, Yuva. We're talking about name, image, and likeness, Texas A&M. What's your thoughts on that, man? It's just getting so wild.
Well, I don't think that's what it was intended for, name, image, and likeness, especially in the recruiting aspect. But, it's a free market now, and teams, universities, boosters are going to do what they can do to help solidify to the best possible roster they can. And I think you're starting to see it over and over. I've talked to a parent who was a friend of mine, and he was basically – it's a baseball player, and this is a younger kid, and he's probably one of the more talented ones, generation. You see, I call him generation. You see this kind of talent once every 10 years. And he was telling me that, hey, what do you think about this? This university's telling us this. And we're talking about a guy, if he doesn't get hurt, that should go in the first 3 or 4 picks out of high school. And one university's even, put together a 7-figure package for a baseball player. And I mean, this is probably something new, but I've had that information for a few months now, and I'm like, Jesus, that changes the way that we're going to have to do things. I know it changes the way of football because it's more prevalent in football.
Right. I mean, it keeps getting out there. I mean, Mike, you cover college athletics, obviously. I don't want you to get specifics, but any crazy stories that you can share and on some things maybe you're hearing in NIL? I mean, again, not anything specific, but just
Well, I mean, one of the things that we do over at Gamecock Central, we made a branched off called the Garnet Trust, which basically takes advantage of NIL and it helps those student athletes. But we try to do it in a little bit of a different way, where it's kind of just trying to take the pressure off the players and make sure from a legal standpoint that they're going to be all right. I say all that because the more that I learn about NIL, the more that I get my hands on projects that are a part of the Garnet Trust, which are some other good things too. You're able to give back to the community. There's other things too, I think, that gets overlooked. But the problem is because there's so much gray area that you do have issues where people are going to try to take advantage of it. I can tell you this. I had a conversation with former Clemson quarterback, who's actually now on staff at Clemson, Taj Boyd, about this very topic about a year ago. And the exact words that he said to me is, Mike, he's like, the unfortunate part is everything that happens in the front door now. That's what used to happen in the back door. That's all it's doing, is it's taking place in the front. And I think, unfortunately, when you throw in the fact that you have the transfer portal and how loose some of those regulations are, it's going to become the wild, wild west. I think there's a lot of good that can come out of it, but unfortunately, it's not the 18, 19-year-old kid that you have to worry about. It's the people that are getting into these people's ears and telling them basically what they want to hear or some of the things that they want to be able to do so that they can make a quick buck. So I think that is the issue more than anything else. It's not necessarily just these student athletes that are coming out of high school. I mean, one thing that we have at On3 is it evaluates what a student athlete's NIL value is. And
right.
It takes into consideration how many social media followers they have on top of the fact of how good they are on the field. So I say all that because when you look at some of the numbers, I mean, some of these players can make some serious money. And when you have someone out there that feels like, all right, this young man or young women, I mean, women's basketball in South Carolina is big. I mean, the amount of money that women basketball players are making in South Carolina is insane. So I say all that because all it takes is one person to get in their ear and it could get really bad. But when you factor the transfer portal in and how you can take advantage of that, if you're a university or if you're a booster that wants your alma mater to be able to bring someone in, it can get very, very dicey.
I agree with you. And Mike, remind me to ask you later on in the show about the On3 thing, about the value. I'm really intrigued by that. So if we don't talk about it, I have it circled. So I kind of want to come back to that. But we do have some news that are just coming in. The Titans have traded up to the Eagles. They're trading A.J. Brown to the Eagles for this pick. Benny, I want to shift this and kind of put it my own little way to you. When a player in a major leagues, whether it be NFL, Major League Baseball, whatever, expresses so much interest about wanting out of an organization, how difficult is it to deal that player to another team?
Well, if it's if you're forced in that situation, you usually don't get what you want to get for him. So I found in most cases it's just posturing by the player. Most of the time, posturing by the player to try to get a better deal for himself, if that makes sense. In most cases, now sometimes they're really unhappy with the staff or the city or whatnot, and those happen very seldom. Everything. Let's be for real. Everything's about money. At the right. An unhappy player can become happy overnight if his contract gets expanded, right? So that's usually the case. But in some cases, you find that this just isn't working out for whatever reason. Doesn't like the city, doesn't like the staff, doesn't like what's going on, or he doesn't like his role. then when that happens, you lose a little leverage when you're trying to trade that player. So you try to keep that in house the best you can, and really, that's why it's always important to have conversations with your players and understand what their feelings are and check on them and stuff like that. So something like this is inevitable. You can get ahead of it.
Benny, you are a wealth of sports knowledge. Okay. You need to write a book.
Well, one day, but look, the most important thing about baseball is you got to have a lot of double bubble. And I just I order these big tubs,
Right?
Because I'm trying to stop dipping. So I ordered these big tubs, and one just came in, so I just popped it open. And as long as we got double bubble, Benny's okay, and probably another 70% of the baseball players. As long as that's on the bench or in the clubhouse, everybody's fine.
So you got the double bubble. Do you ever go big league chew?
No, it's just too much to deal with, man.
I agree.
I get digging in the pouch, all that stuff. I'm a double bubble guy. It's in every clubhouse. It's easy to grab. The end of the year, I've been in the last series a couple times, and end of the year, and the clubby's cleaning up, and there's half a thing of double bubble. I'm taking it. That's just me. So, no, I appreciate it, man. Anything I can do to help.
Last thing, Benny. Last thing. Where's the World Series ring? Do you wear it around the house? Do you show it to the sun?
I'd have to go upstairs to get it, but I have two sons, and hopefully I get another one so I can have one for each. I can leave it, but next time you have me, I'll have it because believe me, I've seen a ton of them. It's the prettiest one I've ever seen.
I agree. It's Benny Latino. Thank you so much, my friend, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Blake. Nice meeting you, Mike.
Likewise, Benny.
Dude, just a wealth of knowledge. Dude, I mean, when you have a guy, Mike, that legitimately has drafted guys in the first round that have become Hall of Famers, I mean, it's insane, man. It's insane.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say this, but, good for the Dodgers. You get a guy like Mookie Betts and take him right from my backyard in Boston. And I remember seeing him hit a home run, and his first home run as a Red Sox.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna. You know what? Hey, Benny seems like a good guy. I'm gonna hold the grudges. I'm gonna act professional right now. But all jokes aside, I think that's the interesting part, and that's the reason I asked him the question about the character concerns, is because from a psychological standpoint, you hear so much about the extra tests, the more tests right now teams are putting players through. And it's not just happening in the NFL. It's happening in Major League Baseball. It's happening in the NBA. We see it more, like Benny alluded to, in the NFL, just because from a recognition standpoint, football players, it seems like from college to the pro, there's a bigger platform. More people watch college football, it seems like, than any other college sport. And you could say college basketball, but outside of the top five guys, the majority of the country who does not follow college basketball probably can't point them out. So I say all that because I think it is interesting, because we will see certain players start to drop. I mean, it happened a little bit. And even though it might not seem like the biggest drop off in the world, right? It might be 3 spots, 4 spots. When you're that player, when you're that agent of that player, you're talking losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars by dropping 3 or 4 spots. So it's always interesting to keep an eye on.
No doubt. And look, so I want to say this, the Saints picks in. We got to go to Vinny Hardy, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shout out to the Kentucky Wildcats and my good friend, Richard Lyons, okay, who decleated Craig Steltz. Okay. Maybe we'll ask Hardy about that. But my good friend, Dickie Lyons, we're having one of your guys on. Bring your happy ass up in here. We're about to talk some Kentucky, too. But before we get to him, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on Treylon Burks, so we have a pick. Treylon Burks, wide receiver, Arkansas, goes to the Titans after they just trade A.J. Brown. It's like Benny was just saying. I mean, you let one guy go, you bring another guy in. But before we get Vinny in here, what's your thoughts on Treylon Burks?
I mean, that's a position that they felt confident enough to be able to bring him in and, like you said, move a guy out. I think one thing that I always noticed with him, especially when he was at Arkansas, was just his ability to be able to break tackles. I mean, And I'm not saying, I mean, I'm going to obviously make a lot of South Carolina comparisons for, the fact that I covered Deebo Samuel. I'm not saying he's going to be a Deebo by any means like that. But with his skill set, he's a guy that you can get creative with. It's not necessarily drop back and throw the ball to. You can have him in motion. You can flick the ball to him. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do with him. And we've seen that across the NFL, not with just guys with Deebo Samuel, So he's the type of guy that, yes, he's a receiver. I don't see him getting behind the quarterback in the pistol or being offset or anything like that, but he can basically be a running back with the ball in his hands. If you like I said, you get creative, whether it's a screen pass, whether it's a motion, and just those little flicks that count as receptions, right? So I just think he's a guy that can bring a lot to the table outside of just being that receiver that they're looking for.
I couldn't have said better myself. Seriously. I mean, I think you articulated absolutely perfectly. All right, so let's do this. The Saints pick is in. Then we're going to go to Vinny Hardy. We're going to bring him in. But I just got to say, is it Kenny Pickett? Oh, no! Trevor Penning? Ew! Actually, he's really good. I'm not so mad at that. I like it. I like it a lot. Northern Iowa, Trevor Penning. Okay, let's do this. Let's bring our good friend Vinny Hardy in here, who covers the Kentucky Wildcats for the Bleav. Vinny, I got to ask you this, because I'm going to clip this and send this to my good buddy Dickie Lyons. Do you remember when Richard H. Lyons III decleated Craig Steltz the year that LSU played Kentucky in the Bluegrass State, the year that LSU won the national title?
Absolutely, man. And Richard H. Lyons III, one of the great legacy players for Kentucky, because his dad did his thing for the Cats as well. And I mean, that props to you for coming in right off the top, bringing up a loss like that to Kentucky in Lexington, 43-37. I mean, you didn't hit us with the Bluegrass Miracle or all the beatdowns y'all are giving us throughout history. You talked about Kentucky with that win that year. So, man.
No, Vinny, if I wanted to hit you guys hard, I would talk about the putback, the Will Wade year in basketball, when the clock literally had 0 on it and LSU put the ball back in. So I know how to get to Kentucky fans, but it's okay. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to say that Calipari is the second best coach in Kentucky right now behind Stoops. I'm not going to say anything like that, but
you got a faction of the BBN that's getting pretty vocal about that already.
Right. Vinny, I'm sure you've been watching the draft. What's your thoughts so far, my man?
Well, I'm kind of casual with it. I'm listening to you guys because I don't make a board. I just kind of check in and see where the Cats go and see what Jerry and my Cowboys are going to do every year. And then you guys are getting deep with it and listening to Yuva and Benny and Carter and all you guys get in depth is really cool. Saw you guys Stingley going third. Look, man, I had nightmares for you when you flashed back to your Fletcher Cox nightmare. I was like, good Lord. I was in trauma myself listening to you relate that. And as a Cowboys fan,
stupid Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, man, they've dealt with him twice a year, and now to see Davis go there for the next 8 to 10 years, and the Cowboys O-line ain't what it used to be. They're making moves, bringing in AJ Brown too. If they can get somebody throwing the ball, they're trying to put some stuff together up there in Philly.
The worst thing about Fletcher Cox is because he talks so country, but he's got hands made of steel, so when he hit me in the chest, he fires off and hits me in the chest. He broke my chest. Like he can, I don't have chest. We don't have chest bones, but I felt like I had chest bones broken. I'm just saying, hey, look, he humiliated me in front on national television. I'm never going to forgive that. I kick it over to you.
You got a piece of sternum floating around. It's just,
oh, dude. My heart was supposed to be right here, right next to the polo. It's over here, okay? Like he dude, I'm telling you, Fletcher. Look, in all seriousness, he's the best athlete that I've ever gone against. Wow. Okay, I don't think I can name anybody else. He's just always the best. And look, you guys, we cover the SEC. Okay, when you get to that level, look, I always knew that I was a big dude, but I wasn't SEC caliber. Like I knew that in the 9th grade. You know, like I wasn't the guy that was
speak
like,
for yourself. No, talk about speak for yourself. I'm still pissed off that Pat Connaughton took my spot in high school basketball. All right, I mean, I think I think the team would have won a state championship with an undersized white point guard instead of this guy that goes on and wins a championship for the Bucks. I'm just saying, but speak for yourself, Blake. I'm just kidding. I would have been a stiff. I would have been just splinters up my ass just sitting on the bench. Pat was something special, and he was a hell of a football player too. He got drafted in 2 sports.
Man,
well, first off, that's like those kinds of people that like are the wildest story to me is if y'all remember the Deion story, like he played on Monday Night Football and then went and played in a World Series game the next night.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, and somebody's gonna have to tell me something that Deion hasn't been good at. Now he's a really damn good head coach. He was a good baseball player. He was a good football player. I mean, what is Deion not? I mean, other than keeping his, I was gonna say other than keeping his toes, but I'm not gonna go there. I can't. Hey man, I ain't gonna go there. It's humor. But Deion, like athletes like that, man, it's insane, Vinny.
Yeah, it is. I'm, just a 5'8" regular dude, and you think you think you can, have these visions of what you can do, and then you run to the gym and run into a gym, and a average guy that's like going to the College of Charleston that's 6'6", and not going to the league at all, but he can, stay 3 steps off of you and still contest your shot, and then still play you to drive. That lets you know right there, oh, okay, it's this length and athleticism on different levels that, you stop having those visions of what you think you can do in your head, and reality kind of hits you. I
hear you. It's so funny, man. Like I just always kind of knew, like I'm not going to be that guy. I want to talk sports, want to be a part of sports, but I just know, but I'm not the guy, I have a good friend. He always talks about high school, and I'm like, dude, we're 32, 33. Get over it, bro. Like, I want to talk about, like, golfing at clubs, bourbon, football. Like, if you're not coming over to do that.
Let him be. He's living out his Al Bundy years, I mean, he'll grow. He'll fade away.
I know. I
mean, I might go to the closet and get my poke high jersey now, T-shirt jersey.
So you know what we should have done, guys? We should have come out here in our Letterman jerseys or our Letterman jackets.
There you go. Flex on everybody like that. Just flex.
No doubt. Vinny Hardy is our guest. Vinny, I want to shift this. The Steelers pick is in. We'll get to that in just a second. Kentucky, how do they look this upcoming year? What are your thoughts on them this upcoming football season?
It's gonna be solid again, man. I mean, the schedule sets up nicely. They've played the transfer portal well. Thank you all for Kelvin Joseph and Dare Rosenthal, by the way. So we got an LSU pipeline going, so we appreciate that.
Look at you. Look at you.
And same thing to everybody in Oxford, because Jaquez Jones and now Keidron Smith, appreciate that. He was really key to the secondary. Little thin back there. I talked with Chris Collins, the DB's coach, the other day, and he likes where the young guys are, but you still need some dudes that's, been in the fire, actually had some serious reps against this talent in this beast of the SEC that we know so well. So getting him in to go with Andrew Phillips and Carrington Valentine in the young secondary is going to help. The offense, I mean, you got all the heavy hitters back. So that's, Levis, Chris Rodriguez, Keaton Upshaw at tight end, who was lost for the season last year. And then you ought to be able to spread the ball around. Much love to Wandale, but he caught 100 balls because there wasn't really much help behind him. Now you've kind of addressed that with the wide receiver. So you guys are used to this, especially you at LSU. We're still kind of wrapping our heads around being consistently good and getting respect in football. And it's a fun place to be. These good recruiting classes coming in, and so we're still kind of new, but we're loving it. But you guys been there for years. But we're enjoying this sustained success.
All right, so we do have some news here, and Yuva, I'm going to kick a couple questions over to you too. But Pooh Bear, come in here and tell us we do have a pick.
With the number 20 pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers replace Big Ben with Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh.
Very interesting. The last time that there was a quarterback at Pittsburgh that Pittsburgh Steelers passed on was a guy by the name of Dan Marino. So they're not reliving their legacy here. Yuva, I kick it over to you. I thought he was the best quarterback on the board, but that was just me. What do you think of Pickett?
Well, let's look at the big picture real quick. This is the first time since 2000 that a quarterback has fallen this deep in the draft before going, right? You have to go back to 2000. Like I said, Chad Pennington was the first quarterback that was selected. There was a pretty good other quarterback that year in the draft. I don't know, Tom Brady. I don't know if you heard of him. But that guy dropped down to 18. This fell to pick 20. Was it 20 or 19? I'm making
20.
sure.
Yeah,
okay.
you're right.
I just want to make sure. Of course, the Patriots are making a trade. That's what my Patriots do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. That was the second question. Who are you taking?
But I think. Look, Kenny Pickett. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I always love the whole. Okay, well, the hand measurement, is it too big? We understand the NFL ball is a little bit bigger. We get that, but at the end of the day, this guy can play. And what I like about him too is the offense that he was in Pittsburgh. I think fits him to be prepared for the next level. I think the question now is, what are the Steelers going to do around him? Because, obviously you want to look at Big Ben, but there's some other pieces that they're going to be losing. I mean, that's just the reality. You already see the reality that's taking place this offseason, losing Juju. What does this team look like in the next couple of years? So you have a young quarterback that comes in here. How quickly do you want to get him onto the field? That's the second question. We've seen teams. I think the prime example is looking at a guy like Pat Mahomes, right? In the situation that Kansas City put him in. I think with Kenny, if you're able to develop him, number one, on a nice, easy, don't have to force him in there kind of pace, that's obviously going to be beneficial for him. But the bigger question is, what are you going to do around him? And I know that's cliche to say, but it's the God's honest truth, especially when you look at the last couple of years with teams that just have not had success when they draft a young quarterback and they force him in there. It just seems like for the majority, you might have an outlier in there, but for the majority of those teams, it just hasn't panned out well. And what do we see? 3-4 years go by, they're back in the draft, picking in the top 10, picking in the top 15, trying to find another quarterback again.
Who has the same hand size as Kenny Pickett? His name's Joe Burrow. I'm pretty sure Joe was okay. I mean, I just want to say, I think he's all right. I don't know. Maybe I know, maybe I don't. I don't know, but I think he's going to be fine. This is what I really wanted to kick to you guys too. Both of you guys covered the SEC East. Now, Vinny, I will tell you, last year I took a lot of criticism from our friends over at Bleav, not Bleav, but the people who work, that cover SEC. Oh, Blake, so wrong. Kentucky's not going to be that good in football. They weren't going to be second in the SEC East. Newsflash, you all stink. I was right. I'm going to put you two to battle here. South Carolina gets Spencer Rattler. They get some pieces. Kentucky with the Mark Stoops. He returns. Guys, how do y'all think the SEC East shakes out next season?
I'll let Vinny go because I'm not a Gamecock fan, nor did I go to USC. So I always piss off people when they say, oh, you're a homer. I'm like, really? I don't care at the end of the day. I mean, I like Shane Beamer. I like covering the Gamecocks. Got a nice place not too far from the stadium. It's awesome on game day. But, yeah, I'm not and that's not to shit on anyone. I like the Tigers hat. I want to go to a game down there. Cole keeps telling me so much.
I told you, if Tracy's not going to do it, beer's on me, bro.
And then Vinny, a guy you have to keep a lookout for. He was my old colleague at Watch Fox, Mitch Brown. He works at the Fox station in there.
I've been trying to get him on, man. I gotta figure out his email or DMs. I gotta get a better
Vinny, I'll get you situated. I'll pass along the number to you. Mitch is an awesome guy. But I'll let Vinny start it up, man, because I think it's interesting with what South Carolina has done from the transfer portal standpoint. But I know that they're not the only school that has took advantage of it. Kentucky is one of the other schools that have definitely took advantage as well. It's just not going to be seen as big to some people just because South Carolina, it seems like they've picked up about like 50 people in the offseason, starting with Spencer.
So here's where, as Kentucky fans, this run is better than it's been in my life football wise. 2 10-win seasons the past 4 years. Prior to that, the last time they won 10 games was the year I was born, 1977. I was literally like 3 weeks old or something when they went 10-1. My dad used to tell me about it. The thing is, Kentucky fans still are kind of still a chip on their shoulders from a respect standpoint, because no disrespect to South Carolina, been beating them pretty consistently since, Muschamp, Beamer, since Stoops has been there. But every year Kentucky's won head-to-head except for the year Lynn Bowden. They put Lynn Bowden in the following week after losing at South Carolina.
Right.
Beat South Carolina. Following summer SEC Media Day, South Carolina's always picked ahead of Kentucky. We're like, what? Why? Beat them again, still ranked behind them in the standings. So, you get that little, especially the fan base. Why is South Carolina getting all this love? Spencer Rattler comes in as ranked ahead of Will Levis in the quarterback rankings when he got benched at Oklahoma. So it's always this little angst at South Carolina. Why are they always the hot Kool-Aid of the week, seemingly, when head-to-head, Kentucky's kind of got them right now? That's a lot of Kentucky fans' perception of South Carolina. Like I said, no disrespect. That's just kind of.
Oh man, Vinny, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. Vinny, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. I'm so pissed off at what you said. You can tell by my voice. No, I think. Look, I've covered the Gamecocks since 2016. I've covered the SEC since 2015. I think the thing with South Carolina, for whatever reason, Kentucky has just been their kryptonite. It doesn't matter what the year is. It just seems like, as good as things can be sometimes, I think back to a couple of years ago when Deebo Samuel got hurt. It was the night game. There was a lot of hype for USC that year, and Deebo goes down in the I don't know if it was the first quarter, it may have been the second quarter, because I remember Sky Moore had an interception that game. But the point being is, it's just like any time that South Carolina just feels like they're going to take that next step, they get a punch in the gut. And a lot of the times it's come from Kentucky. Certainly with what South Carolina was able to do last season, being able to get 7 wins, when you look back to the 2 previous seasons combined under Will Muschamp, when they won 6 games combined in those 2 years, there's a lot of buzz right now. There's a lot of energy. You look at the fact that they were able to get that bowl win in the manner in which they did, on top of the fact that you bring a guy in like Spencer Rattler, like Austin Stogner from the transfer portal from Oklahoma, on top of some other pretty good talent in the transfer portal, a guy named Juice Williams Jr., who's coming from James Madison, an FCS guy who is already getting a lot of hype from the NFL, and he's making the jump to the SEC. So I say all this because there's a buzz right now, at least during my tenure of being in South Carolina, that I can't remember. But at the same time, too, and I've said this multiple times on our shows and going back to when I was at Watch Fox, even though it's been 1 year, I still equate this to the honeymoon phase, because everything's good right now. But what happens when shit hits the fan? What happens if South Carolina, when you look at how difficult their schedule is to start the year, if they lose to Arkansas week 2 and then they have Georgia at home and they start the year 1-2, which they could still go on to win 7 games, if not 8 in the regular season, what happens at that point? How do the players handle it? How does this fan base, which I know can be a roller coaster sometimes, how do they handle it? So I think that's the bigger question, because as we know, the Gamecocks right now have a lot of good momentum, but it's how will they respond? I think that's the biggest question mark I have for this team, outside of X's and O's, outside of the talent on their roster. How will they respond if things don't go well to start the year?
All right, guys, very quickly, Vinny, we do have some picks. We have 2 to announce. Let's bring Zach in and just to announce those picks very quickly. So, Zach, who we got?
Yeah, so Kansas City had Trent McDuffie, the corner out of Washington. And the last pick was Green Bay picked up Quay Walker out of Georgia.
Very interesting, guys, for me at least, because I thought that they would go wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers with Adams, going to Vegas. They're still just not going to draft that poor man, a wide receiver in the first round. It, quite honestly, I hate to use this word. It's stupid. Okay, like at least for me, go get the man a wide receiver. I know that Aaron's got his issues, and talking about things. But still, I mean, let's just get to the football part of it. You got to go get the man some talent. Vinny, I got one more question for you. And thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you for being on the show. I know it's getting late. I don't know how, and I know that we're covering the NFL draft, but since I had you, I got to ask, is the seat getting a little warmer for Kentucky's head men's basketball coach? Is it getting warm? I mean, you ask some people, they already think it's warm. What do you say?
It's you came in so hot the first half of his tenure. 4 Final Fours in 5 years. Only Wooden and Coach K and Cal were the only guys to do that. I said the other day on our show that if you swap out one of those Final Fours in the first half of his tenure, put on his back end, we're having a totally different conversation. Say the 2011 season when they go there with Brandon Knight and Josh Harrelson and make that run. You put that in 2018 or 2019, it changed the whole perception. I said the same thing with Tubby Smith. He made it to one Final Four, won the title in 98, never made it to another Final Four, made it to some Elite Eights. Tubby makes it to a couple more Final Fours. His whole tenure is perceived differently. You got the portion of the fan base that's always not like Cal anyway for the one and done and all that, but they've had to stay quiet when they were winning and rolling. Now they're becoming more vocal because you can't really sustain 4 Final Fours in 5 years. The only way to go is dip a little bit. And now all the stuff he says that was cute and cool and witty when you were winning, it's getting a little stale. Liking it to Tennessee with Phil Fulmer every year. They won in 98. 4, 5, 6 years later, every press conference when they would lose to Florida, oh, we're working like heck. We got to watch the film. It drove him crazy in Knoxville, but he would say that same stuff. He said it in 98, but you're winning. And it feels great. Then things get stale, and it's like, just like Cowboys fans, everything. Jason Garrett clapping all the time. We got so sick of that. Same thing when Cal now, he's calling fans basketball bennies, or I was wrong one time. It was in 1978. All that same old stuff is starting to get played out a little bit. And it's just the way it works sometimes when you've been in it as long and been in one place as long as he has. He's got a lifetime contract. So as far as like literal heat, no, the buyout's ridiculous. But there are some in the fan base that are a little tired of the act. And there is going to be some pressure this year. You have another great regular season. Got to have a run in March to end all this, because you thought you had it fixed from 9-16. Then you flame out in the first round to a 15 seed, which happens to everybody. And it just finally happened to us this time. So you got to roll all the way through another 30-game regular season and then see what they do come March to try to get this bad taste out of everybody's mouth.
I thank you. Thank you for articulating that, because I've been asking and nobody would say it like that. And I just agree with you so much on that point, right? Like, I mean, and basketball can be a fickle thing. Look, if he gets to a Final Four next year, it's all over. I mean, like, they're not going to think about it. They're not going to talk about it, and that's just the thing. Vinny, dude, we got to bring you back. You've been fantastic. Tell everybody where they can catch all the stuff that you're doing.
Bleav in Kentucky, BLEAVIN Kentucky, at Vinny Hardy, my personal Twitter. Hey, I didn't get to connect with you a couple weeks ago, man, when I wasn't able to get on with you then. So got to have both you guys on at some point in time.
You escaped one because Will Wade got his ass fired, Vinny. So so you escaped. You're good. God was blessing you on that night, Vinny.
Dude, both of us had to deal with coaching changes. Vinny was looking pretty good.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Frank Martin and Will stayed Teflon for way longer than everybody thought he would too. So that's a skill in itself.
Gentlemen, here's all I'm going to say. Don't pay recruits from your wife's and yours joint bank account.
I'm going to get my pen. Let me write that down. Where's my pen?
Hey, newsflash. You can't pay recruits from your joint bank account and your wife uses it in an audit with the IRS.
Just noted. I mean, just
I'm not
Baton Rouge. That first Bank and Trust of Baton Rouge statement, man, got him in trouble.
knowing those crazy asses, they probably sent it themselves to the FBI if I had to just throw it out there. I'm not banking there no more. They took a brother's money. But nevertheless, Vinny, you escaped one. We'll bring you back, brother. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate it.
All right, that's Vinny Hardy talking to our I got to tell Dickie Lyons, though, that he got some praise on this show. Our good friend. Mike, do you want to do this? Do you want to take about we'll play the commercials, we'll pay some bills around this thing. You want to take a quick break and then come right back, maybe about 2 minutes and come right back?
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys, let's take a very quick break. We'll join it. We got some picks coming in. We'll be right back. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Our partners over at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA playoffs, fights, and even next season's futures. And don't forget that the MLB is back as well. Who are you picking to win the World Series? BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas, casino, and poker games. It's easy to get started, so head on over to their website. Use betonline.ag. Use that promo code Bleav. That's BLEAV. That's BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. With the first pick in the NFL draft, Ball Saxonville has decided to pick Manscaped to stock up their Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have sponsored us and AYS to make sure that you do not get booed out of the bedroom, just like NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Support us by heading over to manscaped.com. That's manscaped.com, and use the exclusive code AYS at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com. Use that promo code AYS at checkout for 20% off plus that free shipping. Guys, I've got to talk to you about our good friends over at Gramco. They are the Delta 8 company based out of the state of Florida. They're founded by college football junkies just like you and I am not sure if you're familiar with Delta 8, but you need to be. Gramco is the absolute leader in this field, and they have phenomenal products that I just need to tell you about. First off is the Wake and Bake coffee that is absolutely spectacular. The gummies are as well, as they're the best in the market. So go to thegramco.com right now and use the promo code AYS25. That's thegramco.com, AYS25 promo code to get 25% off of your order. Jump on this fast, as it is perfect for holidays, anniversaries, and everyday use. Gramco is hemp-derived and completely legal inside of the state of Louisiana. No medical card is needed, and shipping is very discreet. You must be 21 years older to order. Again, that's thegramco.com. Use that promo code AYS25.
Ladies and gentlemen, when the cat's away, the mice will play. We are back. It's Pooh Bear filling in for Blake for a second. Mike, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Pooh Bear. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I can't complain. While we were away, the Buffalo Bills picked up Elam from Florida. Although my bias, Elam has actually been a pretty good player throughout his career. He's been a solid staple for Florida's defense in his time there.
And I haven't done the count quite yet. I would like to do this. I'm sure they may have done this already on TV, so I'm going to do it in real time here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That is 10 SEC players that have been drafted out of the first 23 picks in the draft. So, Blake, I don't know if you heard that. What did I say, Pooh Bear? 10?
10 SEC players.
So the bet online over under was 10.5. So they just need one more. So we're at pick 24, right?
We're going into pick 24 right now.
So who was the last pick that was just taken? Did y'all announce that?
Bill selected Elam from Florida.
And then Walker was right before. So you have a Georgia and a Florida player, the last two picks, 22nd, 23rd. And now you have what? I'm trying to do some math here on the fly. About 9 more picks left, 24, 25. So, it's a 28, whatever. I wasn't good at math. So the point being is, though, that you still have if you took the over tonight, you're in a pretty good spot right now. The question now is, when you look at some of these teams like the Patriots, some of these teams that have traded back, you wonder now, okay, is there a certain player that they feel good about that's going to still be there? Might not be an SEC caliber guy. It might be a guy that they feel like, all right, we could just sit back on. That is the question. If you're looking at it from a betting standpoint, is, who's going to fall into whose spot?
Right. I mean, so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, because that's what I was looking up. I don't know of another SEC player, though. I mean, you got Nakobe Dean.
Dean there. Wyatt from Georgia, the defensive tackle.
It's true. I got to tell you. So we had Josh Pate on a while back. Pooh Bear, you can stay if you'd like.
Hey.
But we had Pooh Bear, Josh Pate on. And, dude, he was just pounding the table for Nakobe Dean. You've been able to see him more up close and personal than maybe I have, because we haven't seen Georgia. What's your thoughts on Nakobe Dean?
I mean, I think the thing is, sometimes when you look at that Georgia defense as a whole, it's really easy to overlook a guy like that just because there's so many talented guys across the board, right? I mean, you look at some of the guys that were drafted tonight in front of them, but from Georgia. But I think what he does is, he shows good range in the zone. And I like how he's a matchup. He's a guy that, and I think we're starting to see this with a lot of linebackers. It's just where pro football is going, because it's a trickle down effect of how college football is today. He's 5'11", 229. He's a guy that obviously is going to be able to stop the run. I mean, he's not the type of guy 10, 15 years ago that you would think, okay, that's a linebacker. But because of how small he is, and I say smaller, he's got that speed, and he can be able to cover running backs in the flats. He can be able to cover them on passes. So he's a versatile guy. And I think that's something that we're seeing, not to downplay what he brings to the table. I just think that's what we're seeing across college football now, that you're seeing these linebackers that aren't necessarily the 6'2", 6'3", 240, 250-pound guys. They're the guys that are a little bit smaller because they have that speed. He fits that bill.
Well, you know what's funny, Mike, is I remember meeting Devin White a couple of years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And they were like, yeah, he's 6'2", 240, 250. That man ain't 6'2". Okay, I'm just telling you, there's no way. I'm 6'2" and a half, 6'3".
Shoot, but I put on ankle weights just to get my weight up during the weight day at Assumption. My coach said, Mike, you got to show up and you need to be 15 pounds heavier. Well, it didn't happen, so I threw on 10-pound ankle weights, and he's like, man, you put a lot of work in the offseason, which I did. I just couldn't throw weight on. I couldn't keep weight on.
See, that me and Pooh Bear are probably the opposite. Now, Pooh, I don't know, but Mike, I legitimately look at a thing of brownies. I gained 75 pounds, dude. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But the Cowboys do make a pick here. Pooh Bear, you got it?
I do. With the 24th pick, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, $3 million less, make the pick of Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa.
I like him a lot. I saw him at a O-lineman camp. The Elite 11 does those one-on-ones and stuff like that. People don't really go to him a lot. He was very raw, okay, but he's an athletic freak. Like, when you talk about just an athletic dude, it's him. Does he replace Smith at left tackle? Maybe. But I do like that pick there. But there's just not a lot. I feel like the Cowboys, if there's one thing that we got to give them credit on, they draft offensive linemen really well.
Mm-hmm. They do. And I think, when you look at what the Cowboys have done over the last couple of years, it's been one of the staples, right? I mean, I think the funniest part about the Cowboys, you look at, it seems like any year their offense is good, their defense sucks. And if the defense is good, the offense sucks, right? They just can't, for whatever reason, they struggle to put it all together. The offensive line, though, when it's clicking, it's good. It's good. That has not been the issue for the Cowboys when they have struggled. from an offensive standpoint. It's just that the defense just hasn't been able to pick up their weight. So I think that if you want to give Jerry Jones any credit over the last couple of years, it's just that he's been consistent with not only drafting good offensive linemen, but being able to develop him. And I know he's not the one directly developing them. You think about Jason Garrett that was there. Now you got Mike McCarthy there. But the point being is that has just been a position that has panned out pretty well for them. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, they're still the Cowboys, and they still have a lot of areas that they need to be able to answer if they want to be able to end their playoff woes.
Let me ask y'all this, because a lot of people keep commenting, and on Twitter I'm seeing it. Jermaine Johnson, and I know that he was a one-time SEC guy. He was at Georgia, got kicked off, went to one of our good friends and a guy that's a part of the Bleav podcast network, and Jason Brown from Last Chance U went to his team and then went to Florida State. It's interesting, guys, because, and Pooh, I'll kick this one to you. Benny was talking about this earlier. Like, look, man, we know he's a first-round pick, right? Like, we know Jermaine Johnson's a first-round pick, but he gets kicked off at Georgia. You got the Last Chance U thing. He's always back talking and having issues with Jason Brown, which, look, a lot of people have issues with Jason Brown. But regardless, I mean, Pooh, do you think a guy like that's falling because of off-the-field stuff?
When you have talent that good, a lot of times it is just the off-the-field stuff. It's when you're investing millions, a lot of times you want to have that confidence that you can rely on a guy not to get in trouble off the field. Most of the time, that's the biggest career killer. It's the off the field stuff. It's not necessarily the injuries and stuff. So you definitely have to look at those character issues or character flaws as the reason for that a lot of guys fall. And I hate to bring it up, but somebody that we all look, I'm not even going to say the name, and I think most LSU fans know, he fell in the draft, and we all look crazy because we were trying to figure out why. We knew he had the talent, and it was off the field issues, and then later on things popped up. So that's definitely the first thing you have to look at.
Well, I'll say it, Pooh, because I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but Darius Geis, I mean, like sometimes you can have all the talent in the world, and I don't know. Mike, listen, I've been wanting to get to this story for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now that it's just us three and we can kind of settle down a little bit, and, the Brian Kelly thing.
Yep.
Y'all went to the same high school. You're from Boston. What do you think of Brian Kelly coming to the old Bayou?
I mean, here's the thing. I like Brian. He's always been good to me personally. So it's always one of those tough things that'll be like, all right, What I like about Brian, though, and I think maybe this is where he rubs some people the wrong way, because I get it from being up there. He's going to be direct. He's going to be direct. That's that northernness in him. He's just going to be direct. He'll rub some people the wrong way because he's going to be direct with them. I think there's no denying that he's been able to have success. He has been able to have success with what he was able to do at Notre Dame. He's the winningest coach in Notre Dame, or at least the most wins in Notre Dame history. So I say that because you think about it from a Notre Dame standpoint, he was able to have success there. Was he able to turn that into national championships? No. But he was able to have success to the point that Notre Dame was beating some talented teams to be able to get to the playoffs some year. They scheduled tougher teams. Think about what he can do now. And this isn't to say that LSU's dumb or anything like that. But when you look at it from some of the academic standpoints from Notre Dame, it makes things a little bit more difficult recruiting sometimes.
Oh,
I mean,
you ain't got to say that about Louisiana. We
right?
know what you're talking about.
Oh, you got. Look, I'm talking to a different fan base here. I just got to make sure, it's not. Sometimes when I talk to my Gamecock fans, it's like the Harvard of the stuff. No, it's not. But it's okay. It's still a good school. So I say all that because when you look at that, I feel like he will be able to bring in some talented guys. Now, the reality is this. You're in the SEC. You have to compete against the Alabamas of the world for recruiting. You're going to have to compete against the Texases, which essentially is right there. It's your neighbor in a couple of years. Oklahoma is not too far away on top of the teams that are already in the SEC. So I think it will make things more competitive. I'm not going to be shocked, though, if Brian Kelly has success, just because wherever he's gone, he's had success. Now, one of my favorite stats, and it kind of pisses me off now that the rest of the world knows about it, because I was always saying this stat for years. When I talk about Brian Kelly having success, obviously he's had success in Notre Dame. He had success at Cincinnati. He had success at Grand Valley. He had success to the point that he is the winningest head softball coach in Assumption history. Okay. This man, whatever he does, he wins. Wherever he goes, he wins. And I feel like he's going to be able to do the same at LSU, despite the fact that if you look at it from across the board, out of all the stops he's been, this is probably going to be the most difficult. And I think that goes without saying, starting with the fact of the competition that you're going to be going up against from a recruiting standpoint.
All right, so we do have a pick in here. I want to stay on that though, Mike, if you don't mind. After this pick. Joe Burrow's pissed off, but Pooh, go ahead. What we got here?
With pick number 25, the Baltimore Ravens select center from Iowa, Tyler Linderbaum.
Okay, so look, I got to say this as a former center and a guy that breaks it down a lot. For me, and Mike, this is just me and Pooh. I think he's the best center coming out since I went on air and said that Kelsey was the best center in his draft. Okay, I just think, and look, we can watch the film. I'm sure people are watching it too. Watch Mike and Pooh how he gets to the second level. Ball snap, boom, and he's there at the second level, and he's driving a dude in. That's the kind of stuff that centers have to do. He's about to do it again here. I already know. All right, well, he pulls here. Beautiful. The cut block, beautiful. All you're trying to do is give the guy space. He is probably more than likely the best center that I've ever seen since Travis Kelce at driving guys off the ball and then getting to the second level. I was praying to sweet baby Jesus that he would go to the Bengals with Joe Burrow. He didn't, but I'm okay with it. So I just wanted to throw that in there for him. But I want to get back to this, though. I got to ask, will there be some Boston fans that start following LSU a little bit because of Brian Kelly? Like, does he still have a little bit of a stronghold in Massachusetts? Like,
no, I think he does,
Do they use the smart pock? We're going to go use the smart pock. Brian Kelly and the Tigers are coming on.
I think the reality is just no one cares about college football up north. They just don't. I had this conversation with one of the longtime sports reporters up there. He used to work for the Boston Herald. Now he's at the Athletic. And we were talking about this. His name's Steve Buckley. And I said, Steve, I don't think anyone really cares about college football up here. And he's like, well, the Matt Ryan, because he covered that time period. And then we started talking, and he's like, I can see what you're talking about. What I mean by that is, okay, think about 2007 when Boston College was pretty good. You had Luke Kuechly there. You had Matt Ryan. The Patriots went 16-0 in the regular season. Right. The Celtics had just formed the Big Three before going on to win the championship that year. And the Red Sox won their second World Series in a span of, 3 or 4 years. So I say all that because never mind the fact that you also have a hockey team with a fan base who absolutely loves them, regardless wins or losses. The Boston College, BC was the 5th biggest sports storyline in that town that year. I mean, there's no denying it. So I say all that because there have been people, and Notre Dame's one of those teams, right, universally, that people will follow. So I think that definitely played a role with people following him, the fact that he went to a Catholic high school and a Catholic college. So Notre Dame, it just seemed like people were going to follow him from Boston because of that. But I think there will be people that will follow him down there. There's a lot of proud alum at my high school and college that want to see him do well. And I can tell you that, like I said, the fact that Boston College it's just not big up there. College football just isn't big. You follow more so coaches. I think, honestly, a lot of people love the smaller schools up there. I know Cole Tracy mentioned him earlier. The guy, Bob Chesney, who came in my senior year as the head coach. He's the head coach now at Holy Cross. He's been there for 4 years. He's won 3 Patriot League titles. He was the one that recruited Deontay Harris. He was part of the coaching staff that helped get Cole Tracy. And he also brought in a receiver, Ashton Grant, all-time leading receiver in Assumption history, who now is an assistant coach on the Cleveland Browns. And the guy's not even 28 yet. So I say all this because college football up there, it just looks different than any place on in comparison to the South. So, yeah, I think you're going to have some Brian Kelly supporters. Don't be surprised if you see someone kind of come down here, have it as Sam Adams in November, wearing some shorts or whatever when it's 50 degrees, but he'll think it's still summer weather for him.
Well, Mike, and I know that you need to come down here, but it's like 65, 70 degrees in November sometimes. Like it's beautiful.
I've been the last time I was in. Shoot, I haven't been in the Bayou. I've been in New Orleans. I was trying to channel my inner Brian Kelly.
Family.
All right, to his defense, and I'll break this down real quick. In Brian Kelly's defense, when I moved down to Mississippi, that was my first job in TV, 2015. I caught myself speaking slower because in Boston up north, naturally you speak faster because everyone just speaks like this. That's how we just talk. It's just how it is. And I was told, hey, slow down a little bit when you go down there. So I started to pick up. I kind of became like a chameleon in a sense, and I didn't realize it till I went on air. And I was saying football, and I'm like, that's not how I say football. I've never said football like that ever in my life. So, obviously he's been across the country from a recruiting standpoint. I know coaches like Dan Mullen, who I busted his chop because his high school basketball, football, and track coach was my assistant football coach in high school. I busted his chops back in 2015 at a road dog tour, one of those booster tours, right? And I said, I know that's not your accent. I know you just use. He's like, yeah. So, but the point being is, obviously, some of these guys use it from a recruiting standpoint, but at the same time, too, in some of their defense, some of these northern guys, it's easy to become a chameleon to it. I noticed it with myself, and the only reason I noticed it is because I worked in TV, so I saw myself every day, and I saw the footage, and I was just like, wait a minute, that's not how I sound.
So we do have a pick. Here comes Jermaine Johnson. But I guess we can do it. Here it is. Boom. So Jermaine Johnson, Florida State, one-time Georgia guy, goes to the New York Jets. They're at 26. I guess they're not going to count that for us, though. I mean, one time at Georgia. I'm dying
to the half. Can you get the half? I mean, technically, that is the half.
I mean, Ohio State still counts Joe Burrow.
It's true too.
How many years did he spend at Georgia? We're gonna have to go back to
just one. Like they're showing the highlights now.
So it won't be a true half. It'll be like a 0.25.
You're right. You're right. We just need a whole 0.75. Maybe we can get like a.
You could get the push. You can get the push if you're at that 10.5.
Right. I gotta ask you. I can hear some of the Boston accent coming out a little bit. We're getting later in the night.
Oh, Pooh Bear smiling. He's like, I could hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I got to tell you that I'm a big John Kavinsky fan, okay, from The Office.
Oh, yeah.
And when he did Smart Park, it was the best commercial of all time for me. I gotta throw that out there. Best one that I'd ever seen, at least Super Bowl wise. But
I mean, shoot, there's so many good ones. I mean, you could go on. SNL has a really good one with Dunkin' Donuts. If you type in on YouTube, I love that one. Go back to Starbucks. The funny thing is, I was just back in Boston last week for the marathon and catching the Red Sox game. Not that I ran it. I went to watch it and drink because that's what you do when you go to the marathon. And you're around those people, and I said those people. Those are my people. It's just like after being in the South for the last couple of years, it's just like I can hear the Boston accent even stronger now than ever before. Even listening to my dad, he says varsity. I mean, there's certain words that if I'm talking, like it will come out certainly. But yeah, I'll tell you what, it's a fun place to check out. Just check it out, like I don't know, mid-April to maybe the beginning of November. Get to see the Leafs change if you're into that. I don't know why people in the South seem like they're obsessed with that. Oh, let's go see the Leafs change.
Oh, because dude, it never happens here.
Yeah, it's not that exciting. It's literally just something that's on a tree just changes a color. I mean, if that
our leaves just fall.
Mike, I will tell you, it's like some of my friends up north. It's like they freak out over the beach, right? Like hot coming to Florida to the beach. And I'm that way with snow, dude.
I was going to ask you about the snow because it snowed down here for the first time in 7 years. I'm not going to lie. Everyone's outside. Like you would have thought these people were like 8 years old. Meanwhile, I'm pissed off. I'm like Scrooge, right? Bah humbug, this and that. I will say this though. The next day, I was a little pissed off that I didn't embrace it as much because the best part about it was the snow was gone the next day. I'm not used to that.
Oh, yeah.
It snows. Gone. It's there for a week. You have to deal with it. You have to be cold in it. You have to shovel it. And then right when it's all gone, no. another storm is going to come. So I'm not used to this snow come and go in less than 12 hours. I can live with that.
Pooh Bear might remember we had a big snowstorm about 7 years ago or 6 years ago. It came through the entire South. And Mike, I shit you not, it was like 6 to 12 inches of snow, more than we had ever gotten before. And the next day it was 72 degrees. It was just insane. So nevertheless, but
I give you one better, Blake. I actually have a picture of it. It was right after Christmas. It was a Friday. It was 72 degrees. It snowed that Sunday.
Dude,
yeah,
it's so wild, bro. It's so wild. Well, Jaguars are up next. I don't know where they go here, guys. I gotta be I gotta be honest. I mean, they need everything, like it's a good pick because it's Jacksonville. I don't remember them and Zach or Pooh, help me out here. I don't remember them taking an offensive lineman. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, you got to protect Trevor. Like Christian Kirk is not wide receiver 1 for me. If there's an offensive lineman out there, I think that you go and get him. I don't know who's out there on the board, but you got to protect your franchise, man. I'm going to harp on that all night, but I don't know. Maybe I'm too biased to the offensive line. Chris English says the Jets have had a quietly good draft so far. I agree.
I want to point something out. We were talking about how many 5-stars there were earlier in the draft, right? In comparison to last year's draft, and this is using On3 recruiting, it has their rating, if you're just joining us, the star system of when they came out of high school and just trying to see where they are now as they get drafted. So, as I mentioned before, last year you had just 2 5-stars in the first 10 picks, and then this year you had I think it was like, I'm trying to go back to this year, guys. This is just great radio as I struggle through this. 1, 2,
as we're 3 hours in here, Mike, and we've only had one piss break, I think people will survive here.
You have 5 5-stars drafted in the top 10. Okay, but here's the interesting part.
After that,
I'll have to go down and count it. But here's the interesting part. Last year, every player had at least, I believe, 2 stars, 2 or 3 stars. This year, 3 players so far have been drafted without a star. They weren't even given a star coming out of high school. So
who are those players?
Oh, well, it's your newest New Orleans Saint.
Penning. Trevor Penning.
Zion Johnson from Boston College, going to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Boston College.
And then Jermaine Johnson.
That's just insane to me, man. Golly. You would think, and I hate saying it like this, like I really do. You would think in today's world and technology, like kids don't get missed, but kids get missed all the time. You know what I mean?
And Blake, that's why I bring it up, because you're spot on. You're spot on. That's exactly the first thing that went through my mind. Now, I'm still new to the whole recruiting world. I mean, the guys that I work with over at Gamecock Central, Chris Clark and Wes Mitchell, they are our gurus when it comes to the recruiting stuff. I mean, I came on over.
First off, to rudely interrupt you, his name's not Wes Mitchell. He told me on the show we should call him DeArmond because he looks like old boy, the catcher from the Braves.
Oh man, I'll have to send you a picture of when it was his birthday, and I get creative with a lot of these face apps, and I may have put a couple LBs on them. And I made it look like And I said,
look, to rudely interrupt you, I had Wes on the show. My old producer, okay, he might remember this. Is not a sports guy, okay. So takes Wes's picture off of Twitter. That's DeArmond, and he's like, "Hey, is this good?" And I just glance at him, like, "Yeah, it's fine." So he calls into the show, and he's watching the show before we have him on. He goes, "Hey, bro, that's not me. That's the starting catcher for the Atlanta Braves." Anyway, I just had to tell you that story, but continue.
Oh, because what made this picture great is because he had a Brave shirt on because he was at the gym and I saw him, and then I said that that was him in the off season, the Braves off season, and he put a couple LBs on from winning his championship, and So, those two guys, they handle all the recruiting stuff. I mean, I'm more new to it. It's not really necessarily my expertise by any means. I'm just a TV guy working over at this website now, trying to keep up with the recruiting world. But I'll say this, it is interesting though. The more I learn about it, and yourself and the people that are listening, some of them, whether it be on 3, whether it be 24/7, Rivals, whatever it may be, it is interesting to see the fact that there's more recruiting websites now than ever before. And obviously On3 is new, right? So it wasn't really around during that time period, but when these guys are coming out of high school. But the point being is the fact that some of these guys, like you said, could get missed. I think it speaks volumes for two things. One, there's still a lot of players out there that, whether they come from a situation where in high school they weren't getting the attention, whether it be because of their coaches, whatever it may be.
Right.
Maybe they were a late bloomer. I think it's so easy to get caught up on, okay, this guy's a 5-star, this guy's a 4-star. There are still diamonds in the rough. I think back, and I said it earlier when Cole Tracy was on, Carlins Patel. He started his career at Summerton,
right.
And the next thing you know, he ends up playing at South Carolina, and I believe he started the final 7 games at nickel. Now, does that mean he's going to get a phone call this weekend as an undrafted free agent? I don't know. He definitely has the length, and when you look at guys that have come out from that school, you've had the Noel brothers. Nerlens Noel was there. Jim Noel, Rodman Noel. Jim Noel ended up getting a camp invite with the Seahawks. Rodman Noel ended up getting a camp invite from the Cleveland Browns. Then obviously Nerlens Noel with what he was able to do in Kentucky and playing in the league in basketball. So I say all that because that high school in general has produced a lot of talent. I don't know. I don't know if this is something that we'll see in the next couple of years because, like you said, there's so much camps, this and that. But I do feel like you'll still see that diamond in the rough that sneaks on through. And personally, I know Wes and Mitch might not like it, and some of our On3 co-workers. Personally, I love that. And that's not because that's to say, oh, you missed this guy. It's to say that there's still talented guys out there that just develop a little bit later. And it lets you know that if you still just, as corny as the sound, if you work your ass off, you can still prove people wrong. I love when people come out of, high school and they really get no stars. And then the next thing you know, they have like this incredible college career and then they're in the NFL. And so hopefully these 3 guys that we mentioned will be successful because I think it just makes the story that much better.
A guy in my wedding, I'm not going to say what organization he works for.
Well, you said you weren't going to mention what organization you worked with, so I mean, you really went.
You don't hear me now?
Yeah.
Now he was just making sure you weren't going to say it.
Well, that probably means I should move on. Regardless, he told me, and he's been with this organization since their infancy. Okay, so it should tell you a region of where it's at, not too far away from Louisiana. He told me that the Jones brothers. Okay, Chandler Jones. I forget their youngest brother's name, but he played with Green Bay as a defense. Chris Jones, and then you have John, right? He told me without watching John Jones take a snap in college football, they would have drafted him within the first 4 rounds. Okay, just because of watching him in high school. Like, dude, how wild is that? Like coming about like the lineage you were talking about, like the Noels and stuff like that. Yeah. They're like, dude, we would have drafted him in the top 150 because like Chandler could teach him how to do a swim move. Like you can't teach that kind of athleticism. And I'm like, dude, you're wild. Y'all never do that. And he swears up and down they would have taken John Jones. So we do have a pick here. Pooh Bear, who we got?
At number 27, Jacksonville picked up Devin Lloyd, inside linebacker out of Utah. Still no offensive lineman.
I'm going in and out, guys. I don't really know what's going on. I'm trying to fix it, but can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I like it. Reminds me of Darius Leonard from the Colts. I think he's a really good pick.
That's exactly who ESPN put up as his player comparison.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at Yuva the whole time. You know, like
I didn't have a chance to cover Lloyd, but I could tell you I had the chance to cover Darius Leonard when he was at South Carolina State covering the MEAC, and you know what just from based on just some of the footage that we're seeing right now as they show it from the pick, and going back to just thinking about Darius, it's just those arms. It's the arms, it's the length, it's being able to do things that really, you know, no pun intended, separate yourself from other guys. What I really liked about Darius in college, and, you know, not to make this all about Darius, but you talk about that comparison, Darius just had a knack for being able to get to the ball. And from the things that, you know, I had a chance to be able to read up about Lloyd and some of the footage that I saw about him, because I'd be lying to you if I said I know a lot about him in comparison to some of the other guys that we talked about earlier in the draft. He just seems like a guy that has a knack for being around the football. And if you're getting compared to Darius Leonard, that's the first thing that comes to my mind outside of just being able to have those arms to be able to separate yourself. Darius was a guy that it was crazy. You look at the stat sheet, and the next thing you know, it's the end of the first half, and he already has like 10 or 11 tackles. I mean, the real reason why, you know.
Right, and Pooh Bear does a HB.
Cut out on us.
Can y'all hear me? I don't know what's going on. But Pooh Bear does an HBCU hour. And Pooh, let me ask you, is Darius Leonard the highest taken guy from HBCU within the last couple of years? Or can you?
Yes, within the last few years, yes.
Well, and let me ask you, and this is my own ignorance, and I apologize. Was he known as like the guy in the HBCU world, like playing, or was there just not a lot of buzz around him?
He came out. He had a lot of buzz around him. And I guess you could say NFL scouts knew who he was. But of course, the casual fan did not necessarily pick up on it just because of coverage.
Hey, Chris English, who's in the comments. Chris English, if you want to come on the show, let me know.
And I'll say this. I know you're going in and out. I'll say this. I think the big thing that helped Darius out more than anything is what he was able to do against Clemson. Clemson beat the crap out of SC State that year, but what he was able to do truly showed that he was the maniac. I think he finished with just under 20 tackles. It was something stupid. And, you know, I remember getting here in 2016, and Buddy Pugh, the head coach for South Carolina State, said, you want to keep an eye on this guy. This is a guy that is going to make some noise. Now, naturally, without going and looking at the projected, drafts, the mock drafts, all that kind of stuff, I figured, all right, he's a guy that maybe will go 5th, 6th, 7th round, whatever. Then you saw him play a little bit. Then you saw what he did against Clemson in particular. And if you were ignorant to the fact of not knowing really what he was all about beforehand, which I was before getting down here, you learn quickly. So, I say that about Darius because if you want to, if I'm not saying you specifically, Blake, I know you brought it up, but other people are making it as well. People are making comparisons to Darius. I mean, that was his big thing. He had a big game. And when you look at some of these players that come out of some of these schools, I mean, look, obviously Utah has been in the mix for being able to win conference titles over the last couple of years, or even competing for a college football playoff spot. But still, when you look at some of the other teams in the country, I mean, it's Utah, So, I mean, you still have to be able to go out there and have that signature game or two. And, this young man has certainly been able to prove that.
So now we have 4 of Georgia's defensive linemen at one point that have been taken in the first round. Think about that for a minute. Okay. So we have so here's some good news, guys. I got some breaking news for you. We just made a lot of money on Bet Online because that's player 11, baby. Let's cash in the checks. Devontae Wyatt is the next man taken. Completely took over that Clemson game in the first game. Guys took it over. Pass breakups, I remember getting pressure on DJ Uiagalelei. I think I forget. See, Ungulale. There we go. So the Jets win and Georgia's winning. Yes, I agree with that. But we do win our bets on Bet Online. You know what's going to be funny now? The Patriots and Uva, this is your team. It's your time to shine.
Yeah, they'll probably trade it out again.
Knowing the madman Bill Belichick, maybe he will. But the funny thing is, man, what if another SEC guy doesn't get taken and the over-under was 10.5? Like, how does Vegas do this every year? Like, they do it perfectly every year.
We'll have to ask Bet Online. I mean, they just I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's rigged.
It is rigged. It is rigged. We haven't heard from our guy Zach in a while. What's he doing back there? Anyway,
I think Zach is still reeling from the Pelicans loss. I know he secretly is a Pelicans fan, and also his barber said that he can no longer get the Tim Tebow.
Yuva, tell me that our producer Zach doesn't have Tim Tebow sized haircut.
Hey, Mike is not far off. I'm just saying.
No, his hard part is exactly where it needs to be from a white guy's. Okay,
another connection here. I got to cover Tebow for a year when he played for the Columbia Fireflies. So I saw that haircut a good bit. I think Zach, it's close, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's straight Tebow. It's the face. It's the forehead.
He had like a whole part to make this.
Dude. I mean,
to make this geographical here. I mean, it looked like the Mississippi River was going through.
I try to fade it in a little bit, so it's not too bad.
He had a hair butt
Zach
chin.
does not have it.
Zach does not have a butt chin. Okay,
I appreciate that.
All right, so Yuva, who do you think the Patriots take here? What do they need?
God, I could see them either going for an offensive lineman, trying to be able to protect Mac Jones, or you go on the defensive side of the ball. The question is, and it goes back to some of the things we were talking at the beginning of the night, is Belichick just he's not the type of guy over at least the last couple of years from a draft standpoint. They did trade for someone this I think it was last year, but when you talk about what they're looking for from a linebacker standpoint or even a safety, they want the guy that is big. They want the guy like it's freaking 1990 again. It's not. You're not playing. You're not coaching on the Giants. You don't have a Lawrence Taylor. You don't have a Corey Miller. You don't have a Carl Banks. You don't have these type of guys.
Willie McGinnis.
Right. You can go down the list for the Patriots too. The Mike Vrabels of the world, the Ted Johnsons of the world. So I say all that because at some point you need to adapt, and I think that's what we're seeing throughout college football because that's where the game's going with the spread. And because of that, you're seeing it in pro football with the spread happening. You're going to have to get guys that can cover the spread. So I'm interested to see if Belichick goes for a linebacker, if he goes for someone a little bit smaller, because historically he just hasn't done it.
So I got to say this. I feel like Bill Belichick could sign somebody from the local Waffle House in Boston.
Don't say that. I might go around the corner now.
1,000 yards.
I might go around the corner now and get me, a bacon cheesesteak melt because you said that.
Hey, bro, like, where the hell did I forget the look? He's had so many stupid white receivers. Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan was working at the local Waffle House, bro. Like, he was working at a bowling alley part-time.
Also a former lacrosse player. Because ESPN never used that line before.
I feel like Bill Belichick was walking his dog, and he saw Chris Hogan walking and playing lacrosse, and he was like, "That's a really good guy right there. He plays really
That's the
well."
only thing. Speaking about Belichick's dog, I'm kind of pissed off that we don't have the COVID year anymore, just for this one reason. Because we got a shot of Nike the dog at the table making the pick. I enjoyed that last time because they had Bill Belichick's name under it. That was something that made me smile because there's never excitement
around
the Patriots winning. Well, and I'll say this: I grew up a spoiled Patriots fan. Okay, I'm in pain right now. I'm suffering this long title drought. It's been too long since a Boston team won a championship. And I know the rest of the country has so much sympathy for me. So, I'm not used to the draft mattering at all. So this is all new to me. But I'm interested.
They got the pick in. It's your team. You want to announce it?
Well, I'm going to wait to see who it is. Chattanooga. That is such a Belichick pick. I know nothing
That's
about
exactly what I was about to say.
Chattanooga. Shout out to Lamont Paris, the new men's basketball coach for South Carolina, who also coached the Mocs basketball.
So LSU fans might not remember this, but they played Chattanooga a couple of seasons ago. Okay, this young man, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was a true freshman playing LSU and got like some recognition when he's playing against the SEC. I need to go back and look at that, but it is the most Bill Belichick. See, that kid was working at the local bowling alley, Mike. I mean,
hey, shout out to Cole. Hey, shout out to Cole. He made the Dean's List 10 times. It said that's what they use. And look, I'm not trying. Why are you using that? I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, great, he's smart. Why are they showing that? I'm as a fan, right? Not even a Patriots fan. Just put it aside. I don't know who this guy is. I don't want to know what he did in the classroom. The next thing you're going to know is he raised money for the orphanage, or he helped out at the elderly center. I want to know what he did on the field. Why 10-time Dean List? Really? Oh my goodness.
Well, I gotta say, it's at least they are. How do I want to say this? At least they're not saying the stuff like when he was 11, he lost his dog Pookie. Pookie was a very lovely dog, and that's like they're always trying to get that angle of the worst things. All right, so we do have another pick. The Chiefs just selected DN from Purdue, George Curve Loftus. Look, I heard Mike Greenberg talk about him today on ESPN, and he was talking about how much he likes him. I got to be honest, guys, I don't know much about him. But look, I mean, he looks very athletic here watching the film. A stand-up guy too. Man, his technique is flawless, dude.
I mean, he was projected to be drafted in the second round. So, if the fact Kansas City, they had 2 picks obviously tonight. The fact that they felt good enough to be able to bring him on. I mean, you look at that shootout last year against the Bills, right? I mean, if this is where they feel like the NFL is going, and it's another story for another day. I think it is where it is right now. I don't know I think things are going to change at some point a little bit because I think Josh Allen's going to take some hits. I think Mahomes is going to take some hits, and you're not going to be able to scramble the same way like they did. Go ask Cam Newton. But I say all that because if you feel like you need to be able to get a pass rusher out there, I mean, Josh Allen, and I just look at that one game in particular. If you feel like you need to put more pressure on a guy like Josh Allen or whoever it may be, could be a guy like Joe Burrow, if they feel like they might have to run into him in the playoffs next year. That's just I think more than anything, I think it speaks volumes of just being able to know, hey, this is where the league's going. And this is the kind of stuff that I was talking about with Belichick. And that's not saying that they didn't make the right picking the offensive lineman from Chattanooga. But when you look at it big picture-wise, you got to be able to adapt. And I feel like a team like Kansas City in so many different ways, right? You look at it from the offensive standpoint with what they've done. And then the acquiring a guy like Juju Smith too, and just continuing to build that offense up and kind of just, it's like running gun. But from a defensive standpoint, if you feel like that's where the game's going, you also have to adjust from a defensive standpoint. And I think like Kansas City right now, I think they have it figured out.
The Kansas City TikTokers is what they're going to be called now with Juju there. Pooh, you're about to say something. What's up, brother?
Yeah. If you look, if this draft has told you nothing, there's been a lot of trench players picked up today.
I know.
Yeah.
That should kind of tell you something about what all these teams are looking at. I mean, there's been a buttload of wide receivers as well, but the guys in the trenches have dominated this first round.
I remember, Pooh, I think it was 2012, whatever the year that Eric Fisher was coming out. It would have been the year that I was supposed to go in the quote-unquote draft, right? Like that would have been my year, right? And I kept thinking to myself, I was like, bro, there was like, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 offensive linemen, and then the second round, third round, they just kept coming off the board, remember? Because the years before was you got to go get a guy that can rush the passer. It's quarterback's league. So then everybody started drafting offensive linemen. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, if I just would have stayed healthy And then I remember Fletcher Cox, and I'm like, no, F that, dog. Like, F that magic. But you build your team from the inside out, man. And it's tale as old as time. I mean, look, let's call a spade a spade. Now, the Bengals are about to pick. Guys, and for the LSU fans, we went through this a lot. They ran the ball on 4th and 1 with P. Ryan. Their offensive line was absolutely ass water, dookie water, whatever you want to call it. Excuse my language. Bourbon Street dumpster water tastes better than their offensive line ever played in a football game. I don't know what they do here. They got to protect him. Now, they got better there. Maybe you go defense, but I don't want to say I'd reach here, but Joe Burrow must be protected at all costs. As a person that is about to be a father for the second time, and if I have a boy who's going to call my son Joseph Lee Rufino after Joe Burrow, let me just say this to the world and the masses. You protect him at all costs. He has the best hair. He has the best football IQ. He's the new Tom Brady reincarnated. Sorry, Yuva, don't spoil my fandom.
No, it's all right. I mean, shoot. I mean, I won't stop you from your wrong take. You know, I'm not going to stop you here and say that they're running out like show for crying out loud.
It might be completely wrong, but
I'm
the
just
man gave me the best year of my life in 2019. I'm never living it down. In all seriousness, you got to do whatever you got to do to protect him.
Well, I do want to point out something, though, that Pooh Bear brought up because I think it's interesting. With 30 picks in, we're going on pick 31 if it hasn't already happened. It's still in commercial break. Of those 30 picks between offensive line and defensive line, 16 picks have been in the trenches. So I think it goes back to what Pete was mentioning earlier, and I think Mike, when he came on to start the program, it's everything that we've kind of discussed throughout the night, right? Going back to last season, is this the sexy draft? No, you had 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first 15 picks last season. This draft might not seem sexy because it doesn't have the quarterbacks. Your first quarterback taken wasn't until pick 20, which is the latest a quarterback's gone since Tom Brady was drafted, going all the way back to 2000. So I say all that because it's easy to get caught up with that, but there's a lot of guys right here that teams need. Teams needed guys in the trenches, like Pooh Bear was mentioning. So might not sell as many tickets right away. You might not. I mean, I don't know how many fourth graders are going to be going to class tomorrow wearing a 77 jersey or whoever the heck it may be. But the point being is when we look back at this draft, especially next year too, I mean, kind of looking at it like chess, right? You're making a move right now. Some of these teams knowing that, okay, we're not there right now. We might not make the playoffs next year, or this year. But look what's going to be out there next year. That next year's draft class, especially for quarterbacks, it's looking pretty strong right now. So if you feel like, okay, let's build around the offensive line, let's build around the defensive line right now, and if we feel like we still need a quarterback a year from now, let's go after it then instead of reaching this year and being desperate.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Malik Willis is still on the board. I'm a little shocked. I got to be honest because of, look, for Malik Willis, for me, it was the Syracuse game that turned me off with him. It wasn't necessarily the decision making. I couldn't really put my thumb on it. He's still a second round pick though. He's that good of a quarterback. But I gotta say, Zach, you gotta be quiet, bro. You're talking way too much. It's aggravating the piss out of me. Can you please be quiet?
Man, I'm zoned in. I'm interested in this pick for the Bengals.
You're upset because we talked about your Tim Tebow style. That's what you're mad at.
No. I get that all the time now. I mean, I've been called Zac Efron, been called Tim Tebow, Shorty, whatever you want to call it. So I'm zoned in on this. I mean, because I feel like as LSU fans, we've adopted the Bengals now, and
we're all over them.
Last year was kind of a heartbreaker. Daxton Hill, safety.
All right. So I was actually going to say. Go ahead, Zach. I'll let you take this one.
Yep, Daxton Hill, safety out of Michigan.
Yeah, I was going to say that I was hoping or thinking, outside of offensive line, the other position that Cincinnati needed was DBs. I'm not gonna say.
Let's call it apple and apple. I mean, Eli Apple's not ass. I mean,
Listen, I hadn't seen. We've been talking about Waffle House. I hadn't seen that much toast in a long time. So definitely, Daxton Hill was definitely, in my opinion, a great pickup. So
we're tired of the roasted marshmallows.
And look,
right?
I'll say this: I know that we're a little upset with Eli. He did get roasted in the Super Bowl a little bit.
Mhm.
That play though he made against Kansas City against Tyreek Hill to pretty much bring them back. I mean, man, that was such a huge play. Go ahead, Pooh.
I was going to say my only, and he made the play. I can't take that away from him. But is that more of him making the play or Andy Reid making that horrible play call?
Oh, I think it can be a mixture of both. Like, right, like you can have two things can be true at the same time. And look, you're still throwing freaking Tyreek Hill the ball. You know what I mean? Like you're still throwing one of the best in space, the football in the flat, but he just made a good play, but he should have never gone for it. Guys, we've been doing this for 3 hours and 30 minutes. Let me say this, as someone who did this during the COVID year, thank God. Okay, I know this sounds crazy. Y'all know it was like 5 hours and like 12 minutes. I stayed, my stupid ass stayed here for 5 hours and 12 minutes. I am so glad we're 3 hours and 32 minutes into this in the last pick.
And the pick number 32 is already in.
Well, Roger doesn't have his comfy seat. He doesn't have his comfy seat in his basement. That's why.
Let me say this too. You know what's interesting is it really like the picks have gone by a lot faster too. I feel like. Do y'all feel like that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I do want
Bro, Booger got a bad rap being up in that big cart. I mean, the best thing that ever happened to Booger.
The Booger Mobile.
No, it's when Booger said that Kelvin Benjamin was a Popeye's biscuit away.
Oh, man.
From being a tight end.
Well, shoot,
I actually got to meet Booger McFarland. I was on a Disney cruise. I met him in some flip-flops, a tank top, and some swimming trunks.
Was his pinky finger like pointed towards the sea?
Oh, his fingers are all over the place.
I know, right? They were focusing on his hands earlier.
And I know as Pelican fans, it might be a touchy subject, but I couldn't stop, especially as someone that I covered in high school down here, Zion Williamson. I just couldn't stop when people would say, Zion in 10 years, and they would just put basically a picture of Booger.
Like, come on, don't say that because Pooh Bear's co-host loses his shit. But Zion, he'll be back next year.
Zion, I'll tell you this: Zion's last high school game, I covered it. It was insane. I mean, it was stupid. I've never seen security rush on the court to try to pull away like 40-year-old men from trying to get an autograph from like an 18-year-old.
How wild is that?
It was insane.
Like, grow up, bro.
And this is what I'll say about Zion. Hopefully everything. I'd love to be able to just see him play. I hope he's healthy. I mean, I know Pelican fans. I'm sure they would love to see him in a Pelican jersey. But just in general, I just want to see the guy play and see if he can live up to any of the hype that was surrounding him.
Does he coming back? Does he take away some of that team chemistry that they've built, especially during this postseason?
Well,
you guys would know better than me.
Yeah, I think that, and just listening to Ant, because trust me and Daniel have been all over Ant. But just listening to Ant,
pause. I finally got you. Pause. Ha 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 ha.
You did. But I think next year, having the summer and stuff, I do think that they do build. Just looking at the success that they did have, and him wanting to be out there, I think he makes the effort to be there next year.
Well,
the guys are falling in love for the city.
Well, I'm not going to say that they always fell in love with the city, meaning most people always do.
Oh, another SEC pick.
Uh-oh. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I'm so far behind.
That's why I didn't want to spoil it. You know who's updating it quicker than anyone is On3. On3 has it before even ESPN puts it up, which is insane to me.
People in Louisiana get pissed off when you make fun of their state and their city.
Oh wow!
They'll never do that again. Lewis Seen, safety, Georgia. Okay.
Wow.
Lewis Seen had a huge, number 16 had a huge national championship game against Alabama. Dude will light you up like a damn lightsaber from Star Wars, bro. This guy literally would knock you. I mean, look at him. I mean, he's got hair like Pooh. Pooh, he's even got the maroon tips, bro. Pooh, is that? I mean, I ain't trying to get in your business, but I mean, where were you at 21 years ago?
Listen, if I pop up with a natty ring, just mind your business.
All right, I'm gonna shut up. But dude,
So
like, look at this film. Like, watch him attack right here in that play against Alabama against Slade Bolden, the slowest white guy in Louisiana sports history. But nevertheless, I mean, it's a really good pick. All right, guys, listen. We've been doing this for 3 hours and 37 minutes. So let's look. Y'all have been troopers. Y'all been fantastic. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. You've also been fantastic, man. Thank you so much for being here.
No, I appreciate you having me on. I do want to make one correction because if I screw something up, I'm always the first to point it out. Misread something. Jermaine Johnson was a 3-star come up. So you had 2 players that were selected in the first round who had no stars coming out. Not 3, 2.
Well, we will forgive you this one time, but if you ever do it again, I swear to I'm just joking.
Hey, and as you know, Blake, I know we didn't tell the other guys because there's a biscuit named after me at Bojangles and my sponsorship with them, a partnership. I will take care of the boys. I'll send some Bojangles over to you guys.
Okay, I got it. When I talked to you the other day, yep. I got a confession. I've never ate Bojangles.
Was there no Bojangles in Louisiana? I know Popeyes is big over there.
There is in Alabama, and Blake, it's not funeral chicken.
Is it funeral chicken level?
It's not funeral chicken. It's a step below. It's like,
Is it like Blue Store chicken level?
I haven't had Blue Store, so I can't compare. But Blue Store, from everyone, Blue Store is like funeral chicken. This is kind of step below. Mike, I know Mike is like, what are you guys talking about?
Mike, tell us the story very quickly before we get out of here, though. Like, how do you have a biscuit at Bojangles named after you?
When the new wide receiver coach, Justin Sett, from a year ago had his press conference, he mentioned how he was excited to be back in the area, started naming all the foods that he's excited to be able to eat, named Bojangles. My Yankee ass have only been maybe like 5 times my whole life. I decided to go on over, order, their normal, like, number 1, which is a Cajun filet on a biscuit. But I ordered it with pimento cheese, a little add-on. But what happened is, instead of putting it on a regular biscuit, they put it on one of their blueberry biscuits, a bowberry biscuit. So you have Cajun filet with pimento cheese on a bowberry biscuit. I know it makes absolutely no sense. Some people probably say it's disgusting. I took a bite out of it. Made no sense to me. I tweeted about it. Gamecock Twitter ran with it. Next thing you know, there's lines outside of the Bojangles, like, wrapped around. People are asking for this thing that had no name. A couple days later, there's commercials, there's posters, and now I got a little deal with Bojangles. It makes 0 sense. My dad thinks I'm a dumbass, but
clearly, Dad, I'm not. Right?
It's all love. Well, that's just like
you have a goddamn biscuit named after you, Dad.
All right, let me preface that. That is the northern way of saying "bless your heart." All right, that's
okay.
It's more direct, So, which, by the way, my first 3 years living in the South, I thought everyone was just really sweet. No, they're calling me a dumbass. It only took me 3 years to put.
Bless your heart. If my grandmother tells me "bless my heart,"
this Bojangles
does break my heart.
Is it like a Hardee's Carl's Jr. type?
It's like a Chick-fil-A in a sense. But Bojangles is very big in the Carolinas. It was created in North Carolina, South Carolina. It's very big. Those 2 states have the most Bojangles anywhere. I mean, if you guys come to a football game at Williams-Brice, there is literally one right around the corner from the stadium. So
great sweet tea.
Great sweet tea. Honestly, might be my and I know I'm a Yankee, so my opinion doesn't matter. There you go. It ranks as my favorite, and I'm not just saying that. Now, because I'll tell you, I like Zach B's sweet tea too. I mean, that's competitor in a sense, but Bojangles sweet tea. I mean, when it's on, it's good.
All right. Go ahead, Pooh. Go ahead.
I was going to say I can help some people out, some of our regional listeners. Chick-fil-A and Bojangles Sweet Tea are neck and neck. They're pretty. It's pretty good.
I'll take it. Hey, Pooh, I'll take it.
Cannot talk that stuff about Jesus' chicken. The last time somebody started talking about Jesus' chicken, C19 started spreading. So, Pooh, I'm going to need you to say that. Don't say that no more.
Right.
Remember the Popeyes biscuit? Remember the Popeyes chicken sandwich? And then here comes C19. So y'all going to have to calm down. Okay, calm down. All right. But I got to say this before we get out of here. Every time I hear the word Bojangles, I keep thinking about Jang-Lang, Barney McLookin boy. I can't stop. Anyway, all right, guys, everybody, y'all have been fantastic. We'll see y'all again soon. Mike Jones Jr. with us tomorrow. And by the way, since there's only 31 of you here, we have some very big news coming around the corner too with another LSU football player we'll be announcing shortly. So you guys have a good night. It's been fun. Peace out, Girl Scouts.